Great long weekend. I hope you had a great long weekend. I know I did. 3 minutes to 6 o'clock. We are live downtown in the city, and right now it's 15 degrees. As mentioned, I'm Marcy Marcusa, CBC's Information Radio on 89.3, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube this morning. And speaking of which, let's say good morning to our team. Welcome officially, Kevin Nipatebo. Woo! Kevin's our YouTube producer on the morning. Chloe Friesen, also just like she was filling in for Corey last week, is back this week. Chloe's going to be directing the show and covering your commute on air. Good morning, Chloe. Good morning, Abby Adeyemi, also back today, our senior producer of tech here behind the controls. And Abby, you'll hear on the air as well with weather. Speaking of folks being back, I haven't talked to Heather Wells in a while because we missed each other due to some time off, but she and is back as she was yesterday as well. She's here with our news headlines at 2 minutes to 6. Hi, Heather.
Good morning. Hi. Nice to see you again.
You as well.
Well, we can tell you, as of today, Winnipeg Police Chief Danny Smythe is officially retired. And a new CBC Manitoba Pro poll asked Winnipeggers about what they want the next police chief to put their focus on. More than 1 in 4 say improving downtown safety should be the top priority. We'll hear more about what this Pro poll found. As well, an East St. Paul man wants more transparency when it comes to wait times for cataract surgeries. Hedley Duffield waited almost a year and a half for surgery, a big difference from the 9-week wait listed on the province's wait times dashboard. We'll hear where the discrepancy comes in coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
In the forecast today, a high of 30 degrees. It's going to be lots of sunshine and a humidex of 34. So really warm if you are heading back to school. I know most students will be back sort of graduated throughout the week. Tomorrow is the start for Winnipeg 1, but certainly teachers are back, and be careful in those zones because all of your speeds have to slow down in those school zones as well. If you need us on the commute, speaking of which, 788-3093 is where you can reach us. Well, on the program today, we in the first hour of the show, we're going to connect with Ryan Tumulty to find out what's happening with the NDP Supply and Confidence Agreement at the national federal level. So we'll talk about that and hear about a new book from a Winnipeg author.
On Q with Tom Power.
The first father and daughter collaboration on Q. Ethan and Maya Hawke will be here to tell you why they wanted to make a movie about the great Southern writer Flannery O'Connor and their warts and all approach to tackling her genius and her contradictions.
Why you don't want to write something that people would like to read.
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The United Kingdom has suspended some of its arms sales to Israel. Britain's government says there is a clear risk the equipment could be used to violate international law. It's another sign of the pressure on the Israeli government to reach a ceasefire agreement. But some organizations, including Amnesty International, say the suspension does not go as the UK's Secretary of State of Defence.
Well, this is not about making a political gesture. We saw too much of that under the last government. This is about following the rule of law, and this is a government that will respect the law. But in the end, the only way to end Israeli actions, the only way to end the attacks from Hamas, from Hezbollah, and from others that mean Israel harm is for an immediate ceasefire. And we've been now arguing that in opposition and in government.
Healy says this decision in no way changes the UK's stance on Israel's right to defend itself. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called the decision shameful. In Jerusalem, Israelis have been protesting in the streets. The demonstrators want Prime Minister Netanyahu to do whatever it takes to bring the hostages home. Over the weekend, 6 Israeli hostages were found dead in a tunnel in Rafah. The Israeli army says it was on its way to rescue them. In a speech yesterday, Netanyahu remained defiant. Sasha Petrusik has the latest.
If Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech was meant to calm protests, it did the opposite. Crowds grew in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, demanding a ceasefire so that hostages be released. Families of hostages accuse him of criminal negligence.
I think everybody feel like they have to do something.
They reject Netanyahu's insistence on keeping Israeli troops inside Gaza, along the border with Egypt, a key barrier to an agreement with Hamas. Itai Sela has 2 sons serving in Gaza.
The government of Israel is a threat to the world peace. It's a dictatorship run by one-man show.
Even Israel's biggest ally, the U.S., says Netanyahu is not doing enough to secure a deal. President Joe Biden made the comments as Washington considers a take-it-or-leave-it offer to Hamas and to Netanyahu.
I don't believe that either President Biden or anyone serious about achieving peace and achieving the release would seriously ask Israel to make these concessions.
Last night, Netanyahu also told reporters the war will continue until Hamas is destroyed, something even members of his cabinet say may not be possible. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Venezuela's opposition leader is a wanted man. A judge in the country has issued an arrest warrant for Edmundo Gonzalez. It is at the request of the public prosecutor's office, loyal to President Nicolas Maduro. It says Gonzalez is wanted for serious crimes, including document falsification. Maduro was declared the winner of Venezuela's election in July. Opposition supporters have published data claiming Gonzalez was the true winner. The United States government is now in possession of an airplane used by Maduro. The U.S. is one of many countries saying Venezuela's election results were fraudulent. As Victoria Stunt reports, some experts say this is a move to heap pressure on Maduro.
The executive jet sits on the ground in Fort Lauderdale, attracting a lot of attention. It was used by Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro until yesterday, when it was seized by the U.S. Justice Department. The U.S. alleges the plane was bought in Florida in violation of laws meant to sanction Venezuela. A shell company paid $13 million for it, then illegally exported the aircraft to Venezuela in 2023.
Well, it's not as if the president can't get another plane.
Anthony Pereira is the director of Florida International University's Latin American and Caribbean Center.
We'll get another Air Force plane or some other vehicle to travel in. But, it's symbolically, it's a punch in the nose. I think this is just maybe a way to show to the Venezuelan regime that the U.S. wants to maintain pressure. They want something to change on the ground.
What they want to change are the results of the recent election. The country's electoral council and court proclaimed Maduro the winner. However, the U.S. and some other countries insist opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez actually won. They say election fraud was widespread. The government, so far, is refusing to release the voting tallies. As for Maduro's plane, the Venezuelan government says the seizure was illegal and nothing but piracy. Victoria Stunt, CBC News, Toronto.
Russia's president is receiving a warm welcome in a country where he's subject to arrest. Vladimir Putin smiles for the cameras while shaking hands with Mongolia's president in the country's capital. Mongolia is a member state of the International Criminal Court. The ICC has issued a warrant for Putin's arrest for alleged war crimes in Ukraine. Ahead of the visit, Ukraine called on Mongolia to honor its commitments to the ICC and arrest Putin. A Nova Scotia mother wants an apology from the province's health authority. She says doctors failed to diagnose her son's condition, and as a result, he ended up needing emergency brain surgery. As Angela McIver reports, the woman feels the system let her family down.
He's like, he has to go in for surgery. It's surgery or death.
Jennifer Weatherby recalls the moment 3 weeks ago doctors at the IWK Health Centre, the regional children's hospital in Halifax, confirmed her worst fear. Her 13-year-old son Paxton had a bacterial infection that spread to his brain. On 3 occasions earlier that week, she sought medical care for her son an hour away in Truro. The final time he was seen by an emergency room doctor and diagnosed with cluster migraines. Weatherby says Paxton's symptoms had been brushed off.
But is it normal for one person to have, headache, vomiting, swelling coming out of their face and a seizure all at the same time? Is that normal? I don't think that's normal.
Nova Scotia Health declined comment, but a spokesperson says anytime there is a serious patient safety incident, a quality review is conducted.
I would say that's not enough.
Wendy Nicklin is with Patients for Patient Safety Canada. She says Paxton's case deserves a closer look at a higher level.
This incident involves several different locations and sites, interactions with professionals in different areas, and because of the health system implications, I think there's issues for government here too.
Nicklin says it could even be a case study on the impact of understaffed, crowded emergency departments across Canada. As for Weatherby, she's now focused on filing a complaint with the College of Physicians and Surgeons and possibly a lawsuit. Angela McIver, CBC News, Halifax.
Many students across the country are returning to school this week, but in Jasper, restoration crews will still be working in classrooms. The start of the academic year there is being delayed until later this month. Schools were damaged in July's wildfire. Janet French has more.
I'm very glad I get to go back to Jasper.
9-year-old Theodore LeBlanc doesn't know which of his friends he'll see back in class. The LeBlanc's house was one of nearly 360 structures destroyed by a July wildfire. After a month-long evacuation, they found a duplex to rent in Jasper. Parent Megan LeBlanc was among locals pushing for a quick school reopening.
With this unbelievable start date of September 17th, this is like the little beacon of light that we're all looking towards after a very difficult summer.
Schools in Jasper are the latest forced to adapt in the face of natural disasters. A World Bank report found climate chaos is increasingly disrupting students' education. The report says authorities need to do a better job of preparing schools to adapt to disasters or risk more students dropping out. Helicopters carrying buckets of water swoop over Jasper's 2 school buildings in late August, where 200 restoration specialists are working. School Division Superintendent Carolyn Lewis-Shillington says students' mental health needs will last longer than the cleanup.
Will it happen again? Will it be worse? And, also seeing their parents in distress.
The LeBlancs hope that getting their 2 kids back into the routine of school will be the start of a return to normal. Janet French, CBC News, Edmonton.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
We went to speak to some Winnipeggers in a new poll. We'll find out what we were told coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather.
You're welcome.
Nice to talk with you again.
It's So great to be back.
I know, it's been a long time. I have to tell you all about my travels in Clear Lake and Newfoundland and all over the place.
Did you kiss a cod?
Wasn't afraid.
Nothing fishy about that.
After all, I've caught a catfish out of the red, so I figured I could kiss this thing. Right?
Enjoyable.
I don't know if I'd do it again, but all right. 6:13 is the time right now. Let's get into our forecast. As I mentioned, it's going to be really warm today, even though you might already be thinking fall. You better dress for summer. Abby is in with our forecast here. Hi, Abby.
Hi, Maris. How's your weekend?
Really, really good. You?
Oh, it was a good one here and there, out and about, but good to be back here.
Okay, I don't want to overly talk about this because I want to make sure we get the pictures to Kevin so we can put them up on YouTube later.
Oh, yeah.
But just give us a little bit of a taste because you've been doing this wonderful thing on your Facebook page, kind of trying to see if, what are you calling it?
Hidden gem. You know, I stumbled on a website, the Manitoba Historical Society archives online, and I've been reading about places, seeing pictures, and I said, you know what, this long weekend, I want to see most of these places, and I touched 2 of those locations this weekend.
I love that.
So that's all I can tell you for now.
So that's a teaser. So later on in the show, we'll get some of Abby's beautiful pictures. He went out to explore these hidden gems in Manitoba. All right, let's get into the forecast as mentioned.
It's clear outside, 15 degrees in Winnipeg at this time. Expect a sunny day ahead. We're going to be seeing highs around 30, though with the humidex factored in, it will feel like 34. So it's going to be kind of another warm day. Light breeze would come from the south, and then it's going to peak up this morning, becoming breezy as the day goes on. And then later in the night, we'll see some clear skies, which will continue into the night, and then some partly cloudy conditions late in the evening. Other regions, we're seeing 11 for the northern part. Churchill currently seeing some misty conditions, and we'll see some showers later, and then down south we're seeing 12s, 13s, 14s, and 16 in Morris. We're just looking at a sunny day, a warm day ahead with highs ranging from 22 to 23. It's 15 in Winnipeg.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Chloe Friesen, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great.
Good. Let's weekend. First of all, Leanne Taylor. I know you talked about this in the show yesterday when I was off, but
we did.
Leanne Taylor with a bronze medal at the Paralympic Games. Amazing.
Incredible. I've been following her on Instagram and just watching her celebrate with her family. Her husband is her handler in the sport, so watching them celebrate together as well. She's got a bunch of family out in Paris. Just beautiful.
Fantastic.
So exciting.
Huge congratulations to her. We will see how our other Olympian does when she competes. And I also want to mention the other thing, which is the squeaker of the Labor Day Classic that happened. I was holding my breath at the end of that one, but yeah, Winnipeg claiming top spot in the West.
It's almost Banjo Bowl time.
Yeah, that's going to be really raucous on Saturday. All right, let's get into the commute. Just remind people where they can reach out to us.
Yeah, you can give us a call if you spot anything out there. Just a reminder, school zone's in effect today, so look out for those signs, 30 kilometers per hour in those areas. But if there's anything you're spotting out there slowing you down, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I mentioned at the top of this hour, a Winnipeg author is spotlighting some of the immigrant experience in her new book. Gabe Goldstone is the author of Voltrout. The book focuses on a girl in 1960s in Winnipeg navigating 2 worlds, her life at home and the English world. She spoke with Nadia Kitwai on the Weekend Morning Show about how her life growing up inspired the book. So what?
I like to think that I'm writing the books that I wanted to read when I was a kid growing up. I was a real bookworm, and I never was able to read about my own family situation. And so I guess I finally wrote the book that I wanted to read when I was a kid.
Because this is very much inspired by your own life.
Right, 1960s Winnipeg and the 1960s are actually now considered historical times. So that was my childhood, yes, growing up here in Winnipeg.
And specifically the child of immigrant parents.
Right, yes.
Now tell us about the character of Voltrout.
Okay, Voltrout turns 11 over the course of the summer as the story unfolds, and she does not feel like she is included in the school world, and so she lives two worlds. At school, she is Waltraud. Waltraud is a kraut, and at home, she has. So she feels very conflicted because at school she learns about all the bad things that the Germans did during the Second World War. And she knows that at home her parents are actually loving, good people. And so she is very conflicted. And her way of solving is just to try to keep the two worlds separate. So she has her school world and she has her German world, which unfolds on the weekends because they're very involved with the German immigrant community in the city.
And was that kind of what your experience was too?
Yes, I very much compartmentalized my world. My day world on Monday to Friday and my weekend world.
And so, what was that like in terms of you, when you were at school, feeling like that your cultural communities were perceived and portrayed as the bad guys because they were Germans?
Well, I had huge guilt about what they did, but I also had shame about who I was. So those two things were definitely a part of my growing up years. And at school, we learned about the Holocaust, although at that time it was just beginning to emerge as a study topic. But I felt very conflicted with what my parents did. My dad had been in the German Luftwaffe as a pilot. My mother had a background that was so confusing that we were ashamed that she didn't know. She had actually been born in the Soviet Union, but she couldn't explain it, what had happened to her. And in those days, the Iron Curtain was still around, and I didn't know what my mother had been through.
So, Waltraud and you both compartmentalized and kept these worlds separate.
Right.
When you were writing this book, is there something that you did differently for your character that you wish had happened for you, or how did that play out?
Well, my character, like me, got really heavy into Nancy Drew. And when I was growing up, Nancy Drew wasn't really considered literature. But in my adult, now, when I wrote the book, I found the good things that Nancy had provided me, Nancy Drew as a character. And one of the big themes of her life was that she was kind, curious, and brave. And so as an adult now, I have seen that she had this unconscious influence on my life. And I think that millions of girls around the world have been influenced by this Nancy Drew character. And even though people shun her as bad literature, she did model kindness, curiosity, and courage. And I think that those are important things for any young girl.
Yeah, strong female protagonist. So the book is set in 1960s Winnipeg, and you talked a little bit about the challenges that you and your character both kind of faced. What are some parallels that you see between the book setting then and Winnipeg today? And again, a child of an immigrant family from a different part of the world who is perhaps portrayed in the media as bad or dangerous or negatively.
Since I've retired, I've focused on volunteering with immigrants coming to Canada, and recently there have been a lot of Ukrainian immigrants that I've gravitated towards because my mother was born in what is now called Ukraine, and in those days it was Russia. So I have realized that what the immigrants that are coming to Canada today come to Canada for is the same things my parents came for freedom to be themselves, for freedom to choose, and they're so grateful for Canada, and I see Canada still offering those wonderful opportunities. At the same time, though, I see the conflict that new immigrants still experience because they want to fit in. They still want to hold on to who they were and who their family was. And the kids are, again, growing up, like I did, with their feet in two worlds. And I am so happy that Canada has become more embracing of the diversity that its new citizens offer.
Did you keep those two worlds separate? Like, how long did you keep those two worlds separate? Did you ever reconcile them or integrate them in?
Well, yeah, I guess so, because by the time I went to university, I was ready to study German lit. I figured literature was the key to understanding myself and my culture, and so I did major in German studies, and I think and I traveled, right? I went over to Europe and I explored the past that my parents had tried to keep secret. And secrets, like your secret past, loses its power once you explore it. So I feel like story writing is the path to accepting who you are. But I also think there's two sides. Like, you can't just write your story. You have to listen to the other people's stories, right? So that's how we have community, I think.
What advice? So you did find that kind of reconciliation kind of at university stage, but back to kind of the school years and the age group for when, Waltraud is kind of is inhabiting. Like, what advice would you give to young kids from an immigrant background in those years about their two worlds? Is it okay to keep it separate if that's what it takes, or should they try and find a way to integrate?
No, I think you have to, like, at one point in the story, Waltraud doesn't want to hold the hand of a DP because he might have cooties and she doesn't want his cooties. And I think that's what we have to do. That's what Waltraud learns from Nancy Drew, is that to have that courage to take that stranger's hand, to invite that stranger into your house, into your life, and to risk getting their cooties, quote unquote, right? So that's what the courage is about, yes.
It's a middle grade novel. Like, what do you hope that readers take away from this novel?
I want middle grade readers to feel empowered by who they are and to embrace themselves. That's what I want, and their friends.
Gabe Goldstone is the author of Waltraud. She spoke with Nadia Kidwai there on the Weekend Morning Show. There will be a book release, by the way, coming up at the end of the week, September 7th at McNally Robinson.
Psst. Hey, Tiger.
Yeah, Polar Bear?
Is everyone gone?
You bet.
Let's party! When the Assiniboine Park Zoo closes, the party starts. Brew at the Zoo is back September 13th. Local brewers, live music, one great night. Brew at the Zoo, proudly sponsored by CBC. Hey, settle down, monkeys. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for details.
Wow, it is going to be hot today. And if you're in Brandon, you're going to want to pay attention to what you have planned for today, because with Humidex, it's going to feel like 36 degrees in Brandon today. For Winnipeg today, sunny, high of 30, and we're not much different. A high of, with Humidex, it'll feel like 34. And in Thompson, chance of showers late this afternoon, risk of a thunderstorm for you with local smoke, and a high of 26 with Humidex 30. Our sky this morning looks almost a strange shade of mauve over the buildings in downtown Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. 6:25 a.m. is the time right now, and still ahead of the program this morning, I'm going to be hearing more about back to school at 7:40 from a very busy household. We have a family that has 4 kids, so it's a family of 6. I had to do the math there. Getting ready for this big week. I think this is sort of the big shift week, right? Everybody starts to think about, if you have children and students in your household, what are they wearing? What are they eating? What do the routines look like for drop-offs and pickups and all of those things? And maybe you have some firsts going on in your household that are excited as well. Maybe it's the first year you don't have kids going back to school, so you're feeling some emotions around that. Or maybe you've got some kids switching grades, going to new schools, post-secondary education. Maybe you yourself are going back as an adult learner. So we'll try to get some stories on the air throughout the program. If you want to weigh in and you're listening and thinking, that's me, 788-3205 on Back to School. We have music next in the show from his latest album, Things Were Never Good If They're Not Good Now. This is Donovan Woods, and the tune's called 116 West Main, Durham, North Carolina.
It's a good thing the days keep rolling over like they do. And it's a good thing there's a day off before the day of the show in the city where you live. And like most of the men who came before me in my family, well, I likely keyed over the cornfield, thinking once of your face, once of your voice, And once you heave your chest and say, I tried to be horrified by your eye. Tried to be satisfied with your eye. Tried to be less uptight around your eye. Tried midnight, midnight, midnight. And if ever my motivation should fall under some shadow of doubt, well, I tip my hat to the crowd, tip my servery will, and show myself out. And if ever I used to say, oh, I can't live without it, I used to swear I was born to do it. Hell, well, the next guy was too. And I tried to be horrified by your eye. Tried to be satisfied with your eye. Tried to be less uptight around your eye. Tried, didn't I? Didn't I? Didn't I? Didn't I? Didn't I? It's a good thing the days keep rolling over like they do. It's a good thing there's a bookstore by the stage door with a name I'm looking for.
And we have to ask ourselves, is it worthy to be human? With all our intellect, our emotions, our spiritual bodies, our souls, and as I believe we have a soul, to subject ourselves to some shiny object.
Donovan Woods, 116 West Main, Durham, North Carolina is the name of the tune. And you might be heading out to an upcoming show in Winnipeg. He's going to make a stop at the Burton Cummings Theatre on October 11th. We're coming up to news time here. If you need us on the commute, 788-3093 is where you can reach us. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and in business news, in a moment, we're going to hear from Christely Ramlakan talking about how thousands of workers are on strike in the United States, and potentially that might affect your travel plans as a Canadian. So stay tuned. That's after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 6:30. It's still summer. Labor Day may be over, but the heat continues. Kind of steamy, in fact, today. A high of 30. The Humidex, 34. A new CBC Manitoba probe poll reveals improving downtown safety is what Winnipeggers want their next police chief to tackle when they start the new job. Chief Danny Smythe officially retires this week. This probe poll shows more than 1 in 4 people in Winnipeg feel downtown safety should be top of mind for his successor. 60% say the new chief needs to combat petty crime and property crime. Both issues are a concern for Kishan Zalawadia, owner of Family Foods in downtown Winnipeg. He says safety is a growing concern in his store, and shoplifting is a daily occurrence.
I don't want to call the cops for $5-10, but those $5-10 are being stolen every hour. So I don't know what I shall call them for. Like, shall I call them for $50 or shall I call them for $10 every hour?
In addition to safety and crime, the probe poll found roughly 1 in 5 Winnipeggers want the new chief to improve relations with BIPOC Winnipeggers and strengthen relationships with community and social service groups. An East St. Paul man wants more transparency when it comes to wait times for cataract surgeries. Hedley Duffield waited almost a year and a half for surgery. It's a big difference from the 9-week wait listed on the province's wait times dashboard. That's because the province does not include the wait time to get a consultation from an ophthalmologist. New documents obtained by CBC show that could take more than 20 months. Duffield says the province needs to improve the way it explains its wait times.
I also Googled the wait times for surgery in Manitoba, and looking at the numbers that they had there, and they just didn't add up, in my estimation.
The documents show Winnipeggers are waiting an average of 11 months for cataract surgery once the time it takes to get a consult is included in the total. You can read more on this on our website this morning. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba. To Israel now, where protests continue against the Prime Minister. People there want Benjamin Netanyahu to do whatever it takes to bring hostages taken by Hamas home. Over the weekend, 6 Israeli hostages were found dead. The Israeli army says Hamas murdered the 6. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris held 2 campaign rallies on Labor Day. The Democratic Party candidate for president visited 2 union hotbeds, Detroit and Pittsburgh. Harris is trying to show her support for unions and appeal to working-class voters.
You may not be a union member, but you better thank unions for that 5-day work week. Thank unions for sick leave. Thank unions for paid family leave. Thank unions for your vacation time.
Harris was joined by U.S. President Joe Biden in Pittsburgh. Biden says he thinks the Democrats can win the battleground state of Pennsylvania. America votes on Tuesday, November 5th. The Chinese government has released a statement about Canada's decision to impose a 100% tariff on imports of Chinese electric vehicles and tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. A spokesperson for China's Commerce Ministry says China strongly deplores the moves and adds China will take necessary measures to safeguard the interest of Chinese firms. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Winnipeg's fire paramedic service is urging people to be careful in the kitchen. Yesterday afternoon, crews responded to a house fire in the 800 block of McDermott. The one person in the house got out before crews arrived. They were safe. The fire was put out within half an hour, but the preliminary investigation found the fire was accidental. Now, this is just preliminary, caused by unattended cooking. The fire paramedic services advises always stay in the kitchen when you're cooking. Keep oven mitts, wooden utensils, food packaging, and containers away from the stovetop, and never use water to put out a fire. You can find more news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
So Heather Wells, I just posted on our this week in your house. So that could be anything. I mean, adult learning, changing grades, empty nesting, kindergarten, first-time teacher. I don't know, maybe you came up with an amazing lunch plan and you're excited. But you actually had a really interesting reflection on the kids going to kindergarten this year.
I did.
And so what was that?
I don't, help me out here.
Oh, you were talking about the fact that it was the children entering kindergarten.
Okay. Yeah,
their
that pandemic babies are, I thought you were talking about a personal one. No, babies are heading to kindergarten.
Right? That would be very interesting because, of course, when we were doing stories when the pandemic was happening about the early childhood learning, how some of that was, altered by the pandemic and such. And so it'll be interesting to see how those students respond.
Yeah. I mean, it's like almost like homeschooling, right? In my experience, kids who have been homeschooled go to school and are just amazing. Do such a great job.
Yeah. So it'll be really interesting to watch. I don't know if you have a personal memories. I put you on the spot, but you haven't had back to school kids in your house for a while, but your little ones will be going back. Your grandkids, I suspect.
Yeah, they're
right?
going back this week. And I do have one who is starting kindergarten. Oh! So it's very exciting. I hope I'm all week long. I've just been thinking about, I hope they do so well. I hope it's fun for them.
Is he ready?
There's so much. I mean, really, you step into kindergarten. And what I used to do, I'm taking up all your time. What I used to do is just put little notes in their lunches, and I used to try to make their lunches really, really special, because when I was a kid, my lunches were just so different from the other kids' lunches, and I wanted to be the same as them. Lunch can be a big deal.
What did you write on the notes?
Oh, I just give them little messages telling them I love them.
Oh, that is good parenting right there. I love that, Heather Wells. Nice to be back on the air with you.
Thank you.
Heather is in our news department, of course. If you're on YouTube, by the way, we're all on YouTube. You can check it out there and you can weigh in as well. Or you might be listening on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, or on the app this morning. So back to school, that's our question. What's special about this year in your house? You writing little notes like Heather did? 788-3205. You can also call us. We'll get some of your voices on the air. And you know what? If you have an excited kid in your house, call the listener line. Shout it out. Shout out your school. Love to hear that excitement too. All right. Some of you might be excited about the weather, because if you are still off or you're doing anything outside today, it really, really is going to be like extra summertime.
Yes, hot. It's going to be a sunny and a hot day across the province. We're going to see temperatures ranging from 22 in Churchill to 31 in Gimli and Steinbach. And it's even going to feel hotter than that with a humidex factored in. Some light breeze will definitely come in. Some areas seeing local smokes also. In Winnipeg at this time, it is 15 and clear. We're expecting sunny skies later. We're going to see a high of 30 in the city. With a humidex factored in, it's going to be feeling like 34. Light breeze will become, it's going to come into play as the day progresses, and then we'll see some clear skies tonight. Heading west to Brandon, 12 degrees at this time. Some partly cloudy conditions we're seeing there. It will be sunny later, and then we're going to head to a high of 31. Good morning to folks in Thompson. You're currently at 11. You're seeing mainly clear skies. Expect a mix of sun and clouds today. A good chance of showers late this afternoon, and some thunderstorms might come with that. You're seeing some local smoke at this time. You'd head to a high of 26, and it's going to be feeling like 30 with a humidex factored in. Further north in Churchill, it is 11. Some misty conditions you're experiencing at this time. Once that clears off, you see some mainly cloudy conditions. A chance of showers and thunderstorms this morning. Some local smoke may affect visibility, and then breezy conditions with a high of 22. Dauphin is sitting at 10 degrees, also seeing misty conditions at this time. Today's forecast calls for sunny day with a high of 30, and it's going to feel close to 37. So for folks in Dauphin, hydrate, and then expect mainly cloudy conditions tonight. Gimli sitting at 14. For the rest of the Interlake region, we'll see mainly sunny conditions, highs near 31. Humidex would make it feel close to 36, 37. Steinbach is clear at this time at 16. We're going to see mainly sunny day, high of 31, and Morris is at 15. For the rest of the Pembina Valley region, we should be seeing mainly sunny skies, light breeze picking up from the south, and then we'll touch a high of 31. Just expect a sunny day ahead with highs of 30s to 34. That's what I'll just tell you today, and then some light breeze from the south.
All right, thanks. Wait, what do we know?
School zones. Back in effect. That's really all I know. Not much going on right now, although I am seeing some more traffic happening here on Portage and Spence than usual, so that's very exciting. So school zones back in effect, 30 in those areas from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And if there is something that's slowing you down on your commute today, let us know. Give us a call, 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Chloe Friesen. 20 minutes to 7 o'clock, and Crystalie Ramlichen's back at the business report this morning for CBC. Hi, Crystalie.
Hi, good morning, Marcy.
Nice to have you back as well.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about the Bank of Canada making its next interest rate decision tomorrow. What are we expecting?
Well, economists say the bank is still on track to cut interest rates, and that's even despite economic growth coming in stronger than expected in the second quarter. So the latest numbers show the economy has grown just over 2%, and that beat the central bank's forecast, but real gross domestic product continued to shrink on a per person basis, marking the fifth decline in a row. So this weak momentum heading into the third quarter gives ample reason for the bank to continue cutting interest rates. So we'll probably see the key policy rate go down by another 0.25 percentage point to 4.25%. 0.25%, which would be the third cut in a row from the bank. Now, the central bank is cutting interest rates to help the economy bounce back. High interest rates have put a damper on household spending. Even though the economy has not been pushed into a recession, economic growth continues to lag. So growth in the second quarter was actually largely driven by government spending rather than broad-based increase in activity. And many forecasters expect rate cuts to continue throughout the fall. And the Bank of Canada is concerned about weakness in the labor market as unemployment keeps trending higher.
To another story, there are thousands of workers right now on strike across the United States. What's the analysis of how that might affect Canadians' travel plans?
Yeah, well, it might affect people traveling because about 10,000 workers at Hilton, Hyatt, and Marriott hotels walked off the job Sunday at 24 hotels in 8 cities. So that includes Honolulu, Boston, San Francisco, San Jose, San Diego, and Seattle. So Baltimore workers joined yesterday as well during one of the biggest travel holidays of the year. Contract talks are stalled over wages and staffing issues. Now, during the pandemic, many hotels encourage people to decline daily room cleaning for environmental reasons. But, that's also a way for them to cut labor costs. So housekeepers want automatic daily room cleaning restored. They say they've been saddled with unmanageable workloads when all of that mess builds up. And employees were, of course, out of jobs for months during the pandemic shutdowns. And then they've kind of returned to this industry grappling with chronic staffing shortages as well. So hotels are still open, but there are reports that guests are contending with a skeleton staff, unable to provide full services. And the union may expand the strike to as many as 65 hotels in 12 different cities. Now, the hotels say they are committed to reaching deals with the union, but say they will continue to serve customers during work stoppages.
And Ticketmaster, to another story here, I understand is having yet again some more problems.
Yeah, that's right. So, Oasis fans are wondering what's the story. They are looking back in anger at high prices and long delays on the Ticketmaster site. So, of course, many people know this. The British rock band recently announced a reunion tour, but fans are crying their hearts out with the ticket buying process due to heavy demand. So tickets were on general sale Saturday morning, and stories of long waits and inflated prices started popping up on social media. But Ticketmaster says it does not set ticket prices. The company says promoters and artists set ticket prices, and then prices can either be fixed or market-based. And even though some people complained about error messages, Ticketmaster says the site did not crash. And of course, not the first time Ticketmaster has faced backlash. In 2022, it faced a lot of public scrutiny for its handling of the popular Taylor Swift Eras Tour.
Yep. That was also a huge one that caused an issue. So they're saying there wasn't a crash. I'm sure we'll hear more about this. What's going on in the numbers today?
In Europe, markets are slipping. Germany, the UK, and France are all down. And Asia markets are mostly falling after South Korea's inflation hit a 42-month low. So Japan, Shanghai, and Hong Kong are all down. Oil is down $1.27 to $72.28 US per barrel. Gold is up $4.30 to $2,531.70 US per ounce. And the dollar is down almost 0.2 cents to 73.9 cents US.
All right, Crystal Lee, nice to have you back. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Marcy.
That's Crystal Lee Ramlakan with our business news on CBC. Time right now, 6:45 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. or on the app or YouTube. And next on the show, let's touch base with what's happened on this weekend's show on Cross Country Checkup, where they asked a question about empty nesters.
You just become so ingrained in what's going on and trying to get them ready. It was just craziness. And then literally the night of his graduation, at like 11 o'clock hit, the kids literally changed their clothes, run out. And I remember just sitting there thinking, what now? Your world can be very distracted, right? Everything is for the kids. I'm like, you have to work on your marriage before the kids leave. You have to have a strong marriage. You have to have a strong sense of self. You need to have your own activities and interests and friends that are separate from the world of your children, which can be very difficult to do because, like I said, you become very enmeshed in that busy life of child rearing.
At one time, we were like 15 members in one big house. And then slowly everyone left. And that's when we really felt, oh, my God, it's just me and you. We are spending more quality time with each other. And also, we are making plans to travel more than before. It's good for them also. They are independent. That's what we want as parents, that our kids move on and live, their own life, right? And social media has actually made it really easy.
With my daughter, she needed to learn independence, and she didn't want to. She wanted to stay at Thunder Bay and go to Lakehead because she had a boyfriend, this kind of thing. It's kind of a joke, but it's only 50% a joke is that we moved instead. Because to me, it was going to be high school the sequel. However, when COVID hit, both of them had to come back. We said it was the greatest holiday/vacation we ever could have had.
She's in the car with me when your producer called back, and she goes, parents get really desperate and weird when their kids move out of the house. I agree. Like, there's a whole transition there. And I see a psychologist regularly. And I'm so thankful because she really helps walk me through how to step back, how to give them their freedom, how not to be clingy. Because I am happy, of course, that they're finding their own adventures and their own path. But at the same time, it's very bittersweet because it was just the three of us. I raised them, on my own, and all of a sudden they're both gone, and I'm trying to figure out how to redefine, my personal life. I will be downsizing probably in the next 5 years. I'm kind of like holding on just in case one of them needs to move back home, just in case.
They've been away from home now for a while, and it was heartbreaking. It was hard to get used to. The thing that really works for us now, we have technology. One of my daughters and I play Wordle every night together. All three of us watch one television show a week that we all watch at the same time. One of us every night almost will text whatever we prepared for dinner and then compare notes and share recipes. And it helps me feel less lonely. They still live their own lives. I can't be with them, but I feel a part of them, and I think they feel a part of me.
What a question they asked yesterday. Everyone getting personal on CBC's cross-country checkup, the national conversation. The question was, what happened the day you became an empty nester? And that's what some of the feedback was from people. If you want to hear the whole conversation, you can always check it out on the Listen app. It's kind of related to the question we're asking this morning. It is back to school week. Of course, the Winnipeg School Division goes back tomorrow. That's the majority of students in the city of Winnipeg. Most teachers, though, already back in class today across the province. We asked you what is special for this year in your house. The special about back to school in your house for this year specifically. So are you an adult learner? Are there grade changes? Are you an empty nester this year? So we'd love to hear from you. 788-3205. Couple comments coming in this morning. Jennifer Spence saying, I've officially got all day school kids this year. So the youngest one going into grade 1, that's a big shift in your household. Sandy Buse Fraser's got a scream sign up here. She's like, both of mine are in high school now. Also a big transition as the kids reach those ages. And was Pisky Asin wrote in, my son started his second year of university in South Korea on a student exchange program. So that's a whole different kind of empty nest. 788-3205 if you want to share.
The CBC News app delivers the answers you want to know and need to know.
What an extraordinary scene.
The breaking stories that shape your world. Reporting from the scene onto your screens.
Dropping the 8 now. We're just approaching Gaza.
Your source for mobile news. Delivered when you want, where you want.
This situation has changed very quickly.
The CBC News app. Download for free.
Tuesday morning, 10 to 7 time right now, and the current temperature is 15 degrees under a clear sky in downtown Winnipeg. Well, next on the show, the House of Commons gets back to business later this month after a summer break, and a main feature of the minority government has been the first of its kind supply and confidence agreement between the Liberals and the NDP. That deal is now 2.5 years old, and this morning we're going to look at its impact. And ahead to the promise that is still on the table, we're joined by Ryan Tumulty. He's a parliamentary reporter with the National Post. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what to you, after 2.5 years, remains to be addressed under this agreement?
Yeah, there's a few things. I say they sort of fall into two categories. There's the stuff that's in the works, and there's stuff that we haven't seen yet. So, dental care, which is this big, fairly successful program being rolled out this summer. We've seen hundreds of thousands of people treated over the course of the summer with the new program and signed up. All age groups by the end of next year. So that's still kind of a work in progress. The same with pharmacare. Pharmacare has passed the House of Commons, but it hasn't passed the Senate. And, of course, the deals with provinces that would need to be struck and the money and all that sort of detail to actually get these free contraceptives and other medications is not yet in place. So that's a big part of it. And then there's other things we haven't seen at all yet. So there was a promise in the supply and confidence deal of a home buyer's bill of rights. We don't have any details on that yet. There was the promise of a safe long-term care act. That's another thing we haven't seen legislation on yet. So there's a fair bit left to be done in this deal.
What has been done?
A lot of things. The partial steps, of course, on dental and pharmacare. But the NDP also got anti-replacement worker legislation. They got 10 paid days of federal sick leave for federal workers. They've got a lot of other smaller programs that the government promised and brought in that were kind of pandemic relief type programs. We, forget that that's when this deal was struck. We were still just coming out of the pandemic in early 2022.
The Conservatives have been quite critical of the arrangement. What do you expect to hear from them when the House of Commons resumes later this month?
I'm sure they'll keep that criticism up. We saw the Conservative leader just this week, or last week rather, he issued an open letter to Jagmeet Singh. He called on him to pull out of the deal. He referred to him as, quote, sellout Singh, accusing the NDP leader of just keeping in the deal for his own reasons, so the NDP leader could qualify for an MP pension. Certainly, the Conservatives have this giant polling advantage right now, but it doesn't change much for them in terms of government, right? They're not allowed to. They're not government until an election happens and this polling average is put into power. And so they very much want to strike while the iron is hot. I think they would love to have the government fall tomorrow and get this election. But, there isn't a lot of incentive for either the Liberals or the NDP to do that.
How much time actually remains under the official supply and confidence agreement? Like, what are the critical moments for the Liberals in making sure that deal with the NDP will remain in place?
Yeah, so formally in the deal, it extends until June 2025. That would be the end of this parliamentary session. So there would be no more Parliament after that in any respect, because Parliament would rise for the summer next June, and it would not come back in the fall. They'd go straight into a fall election under the calendar as it is, and that's the way the Liberals talk about this deal. They still talk about an election coming in the fall of 2025 and no sooner. The two big hurdles are the two big confidence votes, right? The fall fiscal update and then the spring budget. I think for the NDP, the spring budget is kind of the interesting question, because by that point, everything in the supply and confidence agreement should be done, or at least well underway. And I think there might be some question in the NDP caucus and NDP circles about, why give the Liberals another budget if you're not getting something in return?
This is, people might not realize, but this is a first of its kind agreement at the federal level, at least, and an approach to running a minority parliament that we have not seen before. How do you think this model might be used in the future?
I could see it being used more, frankly. Minority governments used to be rare in Canadian politics, but now they've become quite common. In the last 20 years, we've only seen two majority governments in 2011 and 2015. So the electoral map is harder for any party now. It is much harder to secure a majority. So unless you want to go to the polls every 18 months, the prospect of deals like this that, might advance both parties' interests, that might be beneficial for lots of people, are attractive. And I think, for the NDP in particular, they got a lot of policy wins that they had never thought they would get before. Things like dental care and pharmacare, but also that anti-scab legislation. Those were big movements for them. And I think it will make them think about the next possibility of this.
Thank you, Ryan.
No problem.
That's Ryan Tumulty, parliamentary reporter with the National Post. Now, while we're talking about federal politics, I just want to remind everyone of the Elmwood-Transcona by-election that's coming up in September. In advance of that by-election, CBC's Information Radio, our morning show, is going to be on the road. So I like to call them our community studios. And so we're going to be actually set up for a live show on Thursday, September the 12th. So that's a week from this Thursday. We're going to be out talking to voters. We're going to invite candidates to be joining with us, their vision for Elmwood-Transcona and why they think they should be the next MP. The location for our remote has been settled, so we're really excited that we're welcome to the Elm. Right in Elmwood. The Elm Pizzeria and Cafe, it's at 163 Henderson Highway, so that'll be a really exciting community location for us to have the discussions about what's happening in that part of Winnipeg and also what people are hoping for in the upcoming by-election and what issues are important to you. So if you live in that area or care about that area, reach out to us. You can weigh in anytime. It's 788-3205 on our listener line. And if you want to come down the morning of the remote, we'd love to see you there, September 12th. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells at 3 minutes to 7 with our news headlines.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeg Police Chief Danny Smythe officially retires this week, and a new CBC Manitoba probe poll spoke to Winnipeggers about where they want the next police chief to put their focus. More than 1 in 4 say improving downtown safety should be the top priority. We'll hear more about that poll coming up. And Winnipeg's Fire Paramedic Service is urging people to be careful in the kitchen. Yesterday afternoon, crews were called to a house fire in the 800 block of McDermott. The person inside the house got out safely before crews arrived, but the preliminary investigation found the fire to be accidental, caused by unattended cooking. We'll hear some tips from the Fire Paramedic Service coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Well, that probe poll caps off 6 weeks of conversations with Winnipeggers from various walks of life. We asked them what qualities they want to see in the next chief and also to set priorities. So we're going to hear more on what the research had to say. So we'll build on the news coming up in the next hour as well. Also in the next hour of the show, would you give your kid a credit card? Have you? Why? As digital payments become the norm, some parents say they now give kids credit cards, and experts children and how to use
Election in July, opposition supporters have published data claiming Gonzalez was the true winner. New Zealand's government says it will nearly triple entry fees for tourists. It announced an increase from 35 to 100 New Zealand dollars. That equals about $84 Canadian. The government says the increase is necessary to keep up with the costs associated with so many tourists. Gavin Oliver runs an ecotourism company in the country.
It went to consultation. There were a number of levels were proposed, $50, $70 and $100, and we advocated for 50. We felt there should be an increase, but this is a very, very significant increase at a time when the tourism sector is struggling to recover post-COVID.
The government maintains the country will still be as attractive to visitors for that destination. A Nova Scotia mother wants an apology from the province's health authority. She says doctors failed to diagnose her son's condition, and as a result, he ended up needing emergency brain surgery. As Angela McIver reports, the woman feels the system let her family down.
He's like, he has to go in for surgery. It's surgery or death.
Jennifer Weatherby recalls the moment 3 weeks ago doctors at the IWK Health Centre, the regional children's hospital in Halifax, confirmed her worst fear. Her 13-year-old son Paxton had a bacterial infection that spread to his brain. On 3 occasions earlier that week, she sought medical care for her son an hour away in Truro. The final time he was seen by an emergency room doctor and diagnosed with cluster migraines. Weatherby says Paxton's symptoms had been brushed off.
But is it normal for one person to have, headache, vomiting, swelling coming out of their face and a seizure all at the same time? Like, is that normal? I don't think that's normal.
Nova Scotia Health declined comment, but a spokesperson says anytime there is a serious patient safety incident, a quality review is conducted.
I would say that's not enough.
Wendy Nicklin is with Patients for Patient Safety Canada. She says Paxton's case deserves a closer look at a higher level.
This incident involves several different locations and sites, interactions with professionals in different areas, and because of the health system implications, I think there's issues for government here too.
Nicklin says it could even be a case study on the impact of understaffed, crowded emergency departments across Canada. As for Weatherby, she's now focused on filing a complaint with the College of Physicians and Surgeons and possibly a lawsuit. Angela McIver, CBC News, Halifax.
Many students across the country are returning to school this week, but in Jasper, Alberta, restoration crews will still be working in classrooms. Schools were damaged in July's wildfire. Janet French has more.
I'm very glad I get to go back to Jasper.
9-year-old Theodore LeBlanc doesn't know which of his friends he'll see back in class. The LeBlanc's house was one of nearly 360 structures destroyed by a July wildfire. After a month-long evacuation, they found a duplex to rent in Jasper. Parent Megan LeBlanc was among locals pushing for a quick school reopening.
With this unbelievable start date of September 17th, this is like the little beacon of light that we're all looking towards after a very difficult summer.
Schools in Jasper are the latest forced to adapt in the face of natural disasters. A World Bank report found climate chaos is increasingly disrupting students' education. The report says authorities need to do a better job of preparing schools to adapt to disasters or risk more students dropping out. Helicopters carrying buckets of water swoop over Jasper's 2 school buildings in late August, where 200 restoration specialists are working. School Division Superintendent Carolyn Lewis-Shillington says students' mental health needs will last longer than the cleanup.
Will it happen again? Will it be worse? And, also seeing their parents in distress.
The LeBlancs hope that getting their 2 kids back into the routine of school will be the start of a return to normal. Janet French, CBC News, Edmonton.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, your morning show, and we're live downtown in the city. It's going to be really hot today. Thanks for joining us on your Tuesday morning. You're on CBC's 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube this morning. And yes, it is back to school week. Most of the students in Winnipeg will start heading back tomorrow, but teachers are already in class. Speaking of which, this morning on the program, still ahead, we're going to hear more about what it's like to be back in class from a brand new teacher who's taking on something new this year. In addition, do you have a young one in your life? Do you give them a credit card? As digital payments become the norm, some parents are now giving kids credit cards. Experts say it's crucial for parents to be able to guide their children in using credit cards responsibly, but it's not necessarily the wrong thing to do. So we'll talk all about that this half hour. Stay with us. Also, we have an ongoing part of our series as we lead up to the final day officially for Danny Smyth, Winnipeg's police chief, to retire, which is coming up at the end of this week. All summer long, we've been sort of asking different people questions about that. And now there's a new poll that we've commissioned. Heather Wells is in with the details on that.
Good morning. Yes, and that new poll by CBC and Probe found improving downtown safety is what Winnipeggers want their next police chief to tackle when they start the new job. And as you mentioned, Danny Smyth officially retires this week. The Probe poll shows more than 1 in 4 people in Winnipeg feel downtown safety should be top of mind. And an East St. Paul man wants more transparency when it comes to wait times for cataract surgeries. Hedley Duffield waited almost 1.5 years for surgery, and that is a big difference from the 9-week wait listed on the province's wait times dashboard. It's because the province doesn't include the wait time to get a consultation with an ophthalmologist, which can be lengthy. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thank you, Heather Wells.
You're welcome.
Abby Adeyemi, walk us through the forecast.
Yeah, right now in Winnipeg, after this long Labor Day weekend, you're going to be heading back into something I call a hot day. Sunny today, you will see highs ranging from 22 to 31. Currently, Winnipeg is at 15 degrees. We should see sunny day ahead. Temperatures will climb to 30, even feel warmer with a humidex factored in, and conditions are expected to turn to breezy as we get into the day. Other regions, we're seeing 14 in Thompson. Churchill is seeing misty conditions at 11, and down south, we're seeing 12 at Brandon with cloudy conditions. It's foggy in Brandon, it's foggy in Dauphin at 10, and then Gimli, Steinbach, Morris all seeing 14s, 15s, and 16s, and clear. Across the province, we'll see a sunny day and a warm day, highs around 31.
It is absolutely lovely, although I am seeing more cars and buses and just vehicles out there. I think I might be the only Winnipegger who's excited when there's more traffic as a traffic reporter, so that's really fun to see. But if you are seeing something that is slowing you down, not making you too happy, you can let us know about what's going on out there by calling our commuter line at 204-788-3093.
Thanks, Cole. Well, it used to be seen as a marker of adulthood, getting your first credit card, that is. But as the way we pay becomes increasingly digital, some parents bank for plastic. To talk about the trend, Lisa Hanam is with us, editor-in-chief at moneysense.ca, which is a digital magazine and financial media website that goes along with that publication. Good morning.
Good morning.
So how much of a trend, how common is it for parents to give their kids credit cards?
I don't have any hard data on how many young Canadians have a credit card, but the Globe and Mail recently did a survey that found that 40% of parents provide a supplementary card linked to their account. And of those parents, 30% require permission before using the credit card, 26% restrict the card to emergencies, and 26% impose no limits, trusting the children with the card. Sorry.
No, continue, please.
I was just going to say the key here is about developing financial literacy so that they learn the value of money and that money doesn't go on credit cards.
So what ages are we talking about here?
So a young Canadian can apply for a student credit card at age 18. The supplementary cards that I was talking about can start as early as 13 years old.
When parents give the credit card to a child, is there usually a spending limit? You talked about some restrictions in place, I think, but how does that work?
Yeah, so you can put a spending limit on the credit card, and you can definitely depending on the card that you use, you can have like a limit on that as well. Like say, for example, it's a prepaid card and it's not a supplementary one, but like you can, whatever amount of money that you put on that prepaid card could be the limit. So parents do have control over the amount of credit that they could use.
What are the benefits of doing this?
Well, conversation is first and foremost. So having regular conversations with your child about money increases their financial literacy. So allowing them to use the card helps them manage money, create budgets, and understand the actual concept of credit. So it can be a valuable skill as they get older. It also helps with building their credit history depending on the card that they use. Some of that data can be sent to a credit bureau. Also, it allows parents to monitor their children's spending. With cash, there isn't that opportunity. So they can be accountable for some things that show up on the bill. As well, it offers children access to emergency money. So if they need something and their parent isn't accessible, then they can use that money right away.
What's the argument for not just sticking with the allowance in the piggy bank and the, having physical money given to your child?
I think we want to prepare our kids for the world that they're growing into. And by using only cash, we're essentially only giving them the world that we grew up in, right? So things like they have cell phones, they can make purchases on their phones, and like the computers and laptops and tablets. So they have access to these transactions. So giving them the tools early and teaching them how to use it, because credit can be a little bit of a intangible understanding, you know what I mean? Because they're not dealing with hard cash. So you want them to be able to understand that there are limits, that there is interest, and that things can build up if they don't pay things on time.
Some of the parents might out there might feel like they have financial literacy. Other people don't have financial literacy themselves because that might not be something that they learned. So if you're looking at the big sort of things that you really need to make sure that you highlight and stay on top of, can you outline that?
Yeah, so you want to teach them how to look at a bill. So it's okay if you're learning these things at the same time. The key here is to be talking about money and making money a conversation that families have, from when they're young to even their own families later on in life. So you want to educate them early, not only because it gives them better skills, but it actually helps them build a credit history. It helps them understand how a credit history works. And you can explain the things like how you have a mortgage and how you have your own credit cards, or even a loan like your car, or if you rent, like some landlords do require a credit history. So the things that we have in our daily lives are impacted by credit history, and so credit cards are a tool for that.
So you might open up some of your own, some of your own things with the kids when you're having those conversations as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Before you go this morning, are there specific types of credit cards that you would say are better suited for kids and teens?
Yeah, definitely. So at moneysense.ca, we rank financial products. And so a couple that we rank include prepaid credit cards. So this would be like, essentially it kind of works like a gift card. So you could go to your bank and buy the card, or even at a drugstore or gas station. And then there are secured credit cards. So this requires a deposit that serves as the credit limit. And so you can reload those. And then there's, of course, the Visa debit or debit MasterCard, which teaches children how to use credit cards through the transactions that you would make online or on your cell phone or what have you, or even contactless payment. But the money is coming from their own savings. And then, of course, when they turn 18, they can apply for a student credit card. These are designed for young adults in school who are not working full time or not even working at all. So there's no income requirement, or there's a very low income requirement. And then there are lower limits and lower fees.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's Lisa Hanam, the editor-in-chief at moneysense.ca, talking about what to think about if you're considering giving your child a credit card.
We carry a world of information in our pockets because we want to know. Breaking news that shapes our world. Staying on top of stories around the globe. And connected close to home. It's news you can trust. Delivered when you want and where you want on Canada's news app. Now with CBC Radio 1, local and live. Download the CBC News app for free.
It is 7:20 a.m. It's We're hot today, a high of 30 with humidex 34. Well, I'll tell you what, we have had some lousy weather-wise, that is long weekends, but this long weekend was really quite lovely. And so that means you might have been out and about exploring. Next on the show, especially if you're on YouTube, have a look at some of these videos we're about to put up here. These came from Abby, who is often out exploring. But right now, Abby, you have a series of 2 videos we're going to play. The first one's coming up now. So this is, you've been out exploring what you call Manitoba's hidden gems. So what are we looking at here? This is a church somewhere?
Yeah, this is a church. This is a Union Point United Church and Cemetery. It's in St. Agathe, just in between the Highway 75. You know, you can't miss it, north or southbound. You will find that church and, you know, the little grave markers just around it, and it caught my attention, and I said, you know what, I need an aerial shot of this. It's something in plain sight. A lot of people drive past it and they just like, oh, what's that? I missed it. And I'm like, I'll just document this.
A lot of people do see this driving by, and it was always one of the churches that I said when we'd be driving back, you know, from being down south somewhere, that I thought, wouldn't it be lovely to get married there and get your photos right in the middle of of Highway 75? It's almost right in the center, right? Well, it is right in the center.
And the truth is, a lot of people go there for their wedding photos.
Yeah, I bet they do. It's beautiful. You got aerial footage from a drone that you use?
Yes, I was just out this weekend flying my drone, catching beautiful sights in Manitoba. I also caught some, hay fields, but that will be for another day.
So the Manitoba Historical Society, is that correct?
Yes, I was just, I stumbled on the websites and I saw lots of information there, and I said, hey, I need to check out these places. I don't just want to read it, but I want to experience it.
So this church caught your eye. What's the name of it once again?
This is the Union Point United Church in St. Agathe.
How old is it? Does it say on the historical site?
No, I did not. I was not able to get to that part of reading, but I really want to get to know more about this church.
Well, the images are leading. We can read more about the research in a moment. We're actually going to take you to a different part of Manitoba. Where else did you get out exploring?
Yes, the other one that we have here, this one, I was able to get the date it was built. It was built in 1893. This is the Donera United Church and Cemetery in the of St. Andrews. I was able to walk around it. It's a wood frame church, and you can just feel it's well taken care of, and those, the burial sites around it and the stones, just well marked stories there.
So this is St. Andrews. Is this off of River Road, this church?
This is, if you're heading towards, if you're coming back from Gimli, it's going to be on your right.
So also visible from the highway?
Also visible from the highway.
Now, I have to ask, these are beautiful videos, by the way. You get a real sense of fall in Manitoba, or I guess I should say late summer. But I have to ask, is your whole Hidden Gems tour going to be built around places that you find in the historical site?
Yes, historical sites in Manitoba. That's what I want to catch as much as possible that I can consume.
Love that. Only churches?
No, not churches. I might revisit the Kettle. You know the Kettle town just off of Waverly by the bus station? I'm going to recapture that again.
Okay. So Abby's been doing this and has invited you, listeners, this morning to check out his Facebook videos online. So we use my page as a show page to interact with folks. But Abby's got a lot of beautiful photos of the province and videos of the province. And right now he's running a bit of a Hidden Gem series on there, looking at some of the history. So maybe you've been exploring out this weekend as well. So we just happen to start with 2 churches, but as he mentioned, he'll be taking you to other places. It's 7:24 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on the app or YouTube. And in a couple of minutes, we've got morning sports. But first, a little music from Calgary artist Devin Cole. This is I Got You.
If you need a drink, then I'm fine. If you need a minute to think, I got time. If you need a shoulder, come over. It's all good, baby, cry on mine. Mr. Boss Man's on your back. You left your laptop in the taxi cab, and you're crying in the park on your break. Your boyfriend can't talk you down. He doesn't understand what you're all about, but you've gotten kinda used to the taste. Don't think twice. You don't gotta be alone with the highs and the lows. It's alright to need somebody. If you need a drink, then I'm fine. If you need a minute to think, I got time. If you need a shoulder, come over. It's all good, baby, cry on mine. If you need a hand, I got two. If you're in the mood to dance, I got moves. If you need a night, secrets. I'm still stitching your clothes. I'm still letting you know when I made it home. So don't think twice. You don't gotta be alone with the ebbs and the flows. It's alright to need somebody. If you need a drink, then I'm fine. If you need a minute to think, I got time. If you need a shoulder to come over, it's all good. Baby, cry on mine. If you need a hand, I got to.
Devin Cole and I Got You apparently buying us drinks, Scott Regehr, so we'll have to reach out
Yeah, I absolutely take it every time.
because they're buying. Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, let's get into sports here on CBC, and let's start with the Paralympics. Canada's coming off of its best day yet in Paris.
That's right, Marcy. And a swimmer from Parksville, BC was the headliner.
Well, Bennett is making a push and may just get himself onto the top tier of the podium. Bennett's gone past both and touches in 1:03.98 to take gold for Canada. What a swim from Bennett of Canada.
The call of Nicholas. Canada's first gold medal of these games, and it was not one alone. Bennett, who was diagnosed with autism when he was 3 years old, is coached by his big sister, Haley, and in an interview up on our website this morning, he was asked if there was one word that came to mind.
Pride. Pride in myself and pride in my sister. Well, this is just a monument to our success as a sibling duo, and it's just been mind-boggling having this be around me, to be honest. Even right now, I'm having a hard time speaking just because it's so foreign to me.
Making the podium is not something that's likely to remain foreign to Bennett. His gold comes after he won silver earlier in these games, and he still has 2 more events to go. So all told, Canada, I was going to say, has 11 medals in the French capital, but I see now it's 12. Wheelchair racer Cody Forney, who's also from Vancouver Island like Bennett, has just won a gold in the 200 meters. So Canada up to a dozen medals in total, and we're into day 6. Well, it's not every day, Marcy, that you see an athlete win gold while 7 months pregnant, but that was the case for Welsh para-archer Jodie Grinham yesterday. Along with her teammate, she narrowly beat out Iran to top the podium in the mixed team compound final. Now, archery is a precision sport if there ever was one, so imagine having to adjust your stance to the changes of your body 7 months into a pregnancy. Then there are the unpredictable kicks of a little one. Grinham admitted she was constantly asking her baby yesterday to pause those kicks so that she could just focus on her shooting. On her Facebook page, Grinham delved more into her historic path to gold.
I'd fallen pregnant at the back end of last year. Sadly, we lost our baby, and it was already a conversation of like, oh my gosh, I could be pregnant at the games. And then thankfully this little bean stuck, which is amazing. And then we started to have those conversations. And I was extremely worried that, the BPA could turn around at any moment and say they didn't want me to compete, or the risk assessments or anything else. They have been amazing. And if anything, they've taken it as a real progression in the sport.
Yeah, kudos to the British Paralympic Association for their support. Reporters, her goal was to, quote unquote, show that nothing is impossible and to go out there and smash it. Job done then.
Love that. Back to this side of the pond briefly. The underdogs ruled the CFL's Labor Day Classics yesterday, hey?
Right. Hamilton, last place in the East, beat Toronto, and Edmonton, last place in the West, got by Calgary. Meantime, the Bombers' president, Wade Miller, aired his grievances with reporters yesterday, Marcy. Miller told the Free Press, quote, at some point, maybe our commissioner will decide that we should protect quarterbacks after a play, end quote. This is a reference to the hit made to the head of Zach Collaros during Sunday's win in Regina. Riders lineman Miles Brown. He hasn't been suspended for it, but it's got to be reviewed. And this is just like what we saw last year with Nick Robertson's. Right, it's a history repeating itself as we get ready for the Banjo Bowl, something we'll watch all week long.
All right, thanks a lot, Scott.
You betcha.
That is Scott Regehr, and by the way, that's the latest we have on Zach Collaros and where he's at with that injury or potential injury or whatever happened, the result of that hit. So we'll update that as well through the day if we get new info from the Bombers. It's 15, partly cloudy in the city, and your news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. It is 15 degrees and summer's not over. Even after the Labor Day weekend, we are going to sizzle today, a high of 30, a humidex of 34. Winnipeg Police Chief Danny Smythe officially retires this week. A new CBC Manitoba probe poll finds more than 1 in 4 Winnipeggers say improving downtown safety should be the top priority for the next police chief. 70% rank downtown safety as one of their top 3 priorities. One organization looking to improve safety is Downtown Community Safety Partnership. Director of Informatics and Research, Matthew Sands-Cartier, says the aim is to be proactive. Something he says that is going to take some time.
How do we get to things before they become emergencies? Because if you're just going from emergency to emergency, you're already too late. It took a while to create a lot of the issues that we've seen in the past and the ones that continue to persist. It's going to take time to get out of them as well.
In addition to downtown safety, the poll reveals roughly 60% of Winnipeggers say the need to combat petty crime and property crime also is a top 3 priority for the next police chief. You can hear more on this poll coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. Winnipeggers are waiting as long as 2 years for cataract surgery. That, according to new documents obtained by CBC News. Monthly cataract clearance reports found the true wait for the surgery by including the time it takes for a patient to get their first consultation with an ophthalmologist. Some cases can be as long as 20 months. Winnipeg optometrist Carmen Rexsiedler says all optometrists have access to these reports. She uses it to inform her patients on which surgeon will best meet their needs.
Then we might go over the wait time sort of clearance results and say that, this is the average time and this surgeon is, below average or at average, and we might try to direct them to someone with a shorter wait time.
The province's wait time dashboard says the wait time for cataract surgeries is 9 weeks, but that number does not factor in the time it takes to consult with the surgeon. Teachers across Manitoba are in the classroom today getting ready for the upcoming school year beginning this week. Autumn Yee is a new teacher in Portage-la Prairie. She'll teach grade 8 at La Vérandre School. And Yee says she is steadying her nerves for the first day with the students.
This is my first time having my own classroom, but I have a little bit of experience with teaching a class already. Because of that, I feel somewhat prepared, but there are a lot of new challenges that I know are going to come, and that's where I'm feeling a little excited, nervous. Either way, it's my first classroom, so I'm very excited for that.
Now, this is also going to be the first year for the province-wide cell phone ban. Yee says she will be talking with students so they understand the reason behind the ban. You can hear more from Autumn Yee coming up on Information Radio after World Report at 8. To Israel now, where protests continue against the Prime Minister. People there want Benjamin Netanyahu to do whatever it takes to bring hostages taken by Hamas home. Over the weekend, 6 Israeli hostages were found dead. The Israeli army says they were murdered by Hamas. Risking arrest on an international warrant, Russian President Vladimir Putin is visiting Mongolia. The trip is Putin's first to a member country of the International Criminal Court since it issued a warrant for his arrest. The warrant accuses Putin of multiple crimes linked to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine now calling on Mongolia to honor the criminal court, but that call is expected to be ignored. Well, the Chinese government has released a statement about Canada's decision to impose a 100% tariff on imports of Chinese electric vehicles and tariffs on imported steel and aluminum. A spokesperson for China's Commerce Ministry says China strongly deplores those moves and adds China will take necessary measures to safeguard the interest of Chinese firms. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8, and you can find the latest Manitoba news as always at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
All right, it's time for your regional forecast. Abby Adiemi's back to tell us what it's going to look like today and into tonight.
Sunny. That's what we will see today across the province. Breezy conditions will also be something you will notice. Some local smoke will be affecting visibilities in some areas, and then clear skies tonight. Winnipeg at 15 and clear. We should be seeing some sunny conditions as we get into the morning. We're warming up to a high of 30. The humidex is going to make it feel hotter than that, and then some breezy conditions as the day goes on. Heading west to Brandon, 12 degrees, partly cloudy conditions we see at this time. Today will also be sunny with highs near 31, though it's going to feel like 36, so it's going to be really hot for folks in Brandon. Local smoke will also develop overnight, but that's something you need to take care about. Moving north to Thompson, where it's 14 degrees and mostly cloudy. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds today, a good chance of late afternoon showers and some thunderstorms here and there. Some local smoke will be felt, and then we'll see a high of 26. Further north in Churchill, 11, we're seeing some misty conditions in that part of the region. We're expecting cloudy skies to be the main attraction for that part. Showers possible, thunderstorm this morning, breezy conditions will develop, and then we'll get to a high of 22. Dauphin is sitting at 11 with some misty conditions also. Expect sunny skies with a high of 30 today, and with a humidex factored in, it's going to be getting to almost 37. Gimli is currently partly cloudy at 14. The Interlake region should be seeing mainly sunny skies later today. We'll get to a high of 31, and it's going to feel hotter than that. Steinbach is at 15. Partly cloudy skies we're seeing at this time. We will also see sunny conditions later in the day. High is going to be around 30 plus. Morris is at 16. Today's forecast will be seeing more of like sunny skies, light breeze from the south. Highs will be reaching 31. Factor in the humidex, it's going to feel like 36. So across board today, I'll tell you, we're going to be seeing mainly sunny skies with highs around 30s and even over 30s with a humidex factored in. Right now, Winnipeg, we are at 15.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Reminder, Chloe Friesen's in with that.
School zones.
Yep.
School zones, Marcy, back in effect. The signs, you'll spot them Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., 30 kilometers an hour. And you said it's good for multiple reasons. Number one, safety. Number two, avoiding those fines.
Which are huge.
Which are huge. So, and also just a reminder, head into this week, probably more traffic out on those roads. So make sure that you are just aware of your surroundings, driving carefully, and just enjoying the sight of little tiny backpacks going back to school. Oh, so precious. If there's anything out there that is getting in your way, you can give us a call, 204-788-3093.
All right, thank you, Chloe. Well, my next guest is going to have 4 backpacks or some kind of bags lined up at her back door because she's got a busy household. Parents, start your engines and let the chaos begin. It's one of the most stressful times of the year, back to school eve. A lot of kids mostly going back tomorrow. Maybe your kids are struggling to get back in the school sleep schedule. Maybe you're behind on what you wanted to do and getting the supply list complete, the outfits, all the things that are thought about at this time of year. If you need some inspiration for getting organized, we've got you covered. We're going to get some inspiration from Niverville this morning. That is where Natisha Mastriani is a mom of 4 young kids. She says she's all set for getting them out the door. Good morning, Natisha.
Hi, good morning.
So you have 4 kids. How old are they?
I do. I have 4 boys. My oldest is 12, and then my middle is 10, and then my twins are going to be 7 this month.
Wow, 12, 10, and 2 7-year-olds.
Yes.
How early do you start thinking about this week and back to school?
Honestly, I start thinking about it probably, I'd say, about the end of July, early.
Yeah.
I feel like if you get on it early, then you're not kind of dreading these last 2 weeks or even a week before school starts.
What kinds of things do you make sure you prioritize getting ready and making sure that kids are ready for the return to routine, so to speak?
Yeah, so one of the things I like to do is I like to get all of their appointments out of the way. So their eye doctor appointments, their dental recall exams. I also like to get their yearly physicals around that time as well. Just because if there's any concerns, then it's, we've kind of dealt with it by then. So all my boys' appointments, they're all done. They were done like mid-August.
That's super smart. Do you
Yeah.
are you someone that does the whole that they recommend we do this, and I think a lot of families are like, I meant to do it, but I didn't get a chance. Do you change the sleep routine, and when do you start doing that?
Yeah, I do. So my boys are not the fondest of us because I usually do about 3 weeks before school starts. So right now they've been doing it, and it's been great. I About 3 weeks in, I'll kind of get them ready. Like, okay, we got to go, earlier bedtime. For the most part, like our bedtime routine stays the same even throughout the summer. They just are able to stay up a little later because they don't have school the next day.
Lunches. Do they participate in helping you out, or is this the bane of you and your partner's existence?
Well, that depends what they want for lunch. We always, bring our boys into the conversation, especially with groceries right now. Everything just seems so expensive. We kind of have a conversation with them. What do you guys want to eat? What are you going to eat? What's not going to go to waste? So if we are going to be cooking, we'll kind of do like a meal prep. So we'll cook extra at dinner one night, and then we have extras for the next day or two. Yeah, so we'll do that. And then for like easier lunches, like sandwiches or cutting up like meat and then a fruit and a vegetable, we'll get the older boys to actually help us make their sandwiches.
You're a working mom as well. How do you and your husband handle the stress? And your husband works as well. How do you handle the
Yeah.
stress as parents when you're juggling all of it?
Honestly, it like when you have a big family, it really is honestly about teamwork. So all of us play a role. It's not just, mom and dad are going to be doing everything for us. I like to bring our boys into it, and, they can help with meal prep. They can help making sure that their clothes are laid out the night before they go to school, what they want to wear. I know for the twins, we also have like a 5-unit compartment in their closet, and I'll kind of go over with them Sunday. Okay, what do you guys want to wear this week? And then it's good to go. All they have to do is wake up in the morning and get their clothes on.
Oh, you're even planning the clothes. I love that. And
Yeah.
I should say you're a mom who works inside the home and outside the home, only because any parent is working,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
You have some big changes coming up this year for your little ones. I guess it's a big change in terms of the grades that they're going to be looking at. Have you had to deal with any anxieties, or is it more excitement in your house?
They're very excited to go back with their friends. That's one thing. I know one of my twins was a little nervous to be going. I'm going to be in grade 2, and he has a little bit of these anxieties. But we just talk to them, kind of help ease that. And anxiety is, unfortunately very common, and we kind of talk and work through that. But for the most part, they're very excited.
And I should mention, I neglected to outline for the listeners some of the changes We'll have that interview coming up here on the program after 8 o'clock. Right now, though, outgoing Winnipeg Police Chief Danny Smyth retires officially this week, as we've been reminded of in the news this morning. And the nationwide search for Winnipeg's new police chief is underway already. Now, for the last 4 weeks on the morning show, every Tuesday, in fact, we've had a series running. We have heard from Winnipeggers from a variety of walks of life about what might come next, what qualities they're looking for in the next police chief. We heard from an online Crime Stop facilitator from her neighborhood in South Winnipeg. We heard from the co-chair of the Winnipeg Police Accountability Coalition. We heard from former police chief Devon Clunas. We also heard from MMIWG leader and advocate Sheila North, as well. Marcus Chambers was on the show about the process of selection. But now we're about to hear even a wider swath of different thoughts on these questions, because Probe Research has polled Winnipeggers to find out what the issues are that are top of mind for residents, but also what challenges they want whoever's going to be the new chief to tackle right away. Now, results at the top of the list, in case you missed the news today, do include getting serious about downtown safety and reducing petty and property crime. Family Foods owner Kishan Zalawadia says he's dealing with shoplifting on an hourly basis. CBC's Mike Arsenault asked him what he needs from the next chief.
We want them to patrol more. Like for the patrolling, they should be here more often, especially in the downtown, yes, right? And like we want those people to be treated in a educative way. Like, this is not okay. If you do this or so, that will be a bad result, right? So they need to know what are the consequences for any shoplifter. But if they are treating like as a normal, they're gonna continue the same. They're not worried about.
You feel like there has to be more to be done because right now shoplifters aren't, they're not worried about the consequences?
I don't think so. If they're worried, then they should stop it. But we had literally seen a same person coming again and again and again. Though you stop them, though you say them like, hey, we're gonna call the cops, they are not worried about at all. No, they're gonna come back tomorrow. They're gonna go to any of the department, take the things what they want. They try to go out. If we are able to get those things from them, we are lucky. If not, then they are lucky.
Let's have a deeper look at what this poll found. Mary Agnes Welch is a partner at Probe Research Inc. and in studio live with us at CBC. Good morning.
Good morning.
So let's just get right into it. Winnipeggers want to see the next police chief tackle.
Yeah, the big one, as you mentioned, downtown safety, really getting serious on that. And that was interesting because it was like all Winnipeggers feel that. It was intense for some people, but really broad. We, as all kinds of different Winnipeggers, really want the new chief to focus on downtown safety. Then, of course, that petty crime, property crime, your 7-Eleven getting busted into, your bike getting stolen, feeling safe walking on the streets, all of those petty and property crime issues that have been in the news. And then there were kind of a series of lesser but still kind of important priorities for folks. The police chief needs to build better relationships with community groups, the Bear Clan, that sort of thing. And also try to deal a bit more fairly with BIPOC folks, building those relationships and that level of trust with Black, Indigenous, people of color, racialized folks in Winnipeg. And then the last one was improve police morale and culture. Not as big a priority for Winnipeggers. Kind of understandably, that's a little bit maybe more of an inside the building priority.
It was interesting, though, that came up because when we did have former police chief Devon Clunas in talking about priorities, we talked all about how to walk the line between you're a chief for those service members and you're a chief for the public, and it's all a service. So, it's interesting that came up in this survey. Just to be clear, who was surveyed? Is there a breakdown to be by demographics that we should understand?
Yeah, 480 Winnipeggers, and the folks that we surveyed online with our panel are representative of Winnipeg. So the right number of men and women, the right number of young folks versus old folks, right number of like inner city folks versus folks in the suburbs. So it looked like Winnipeg in our sample.
What were the higher priorities for younger adults compared with older adults? Is there something to glean there?
Yeah, a little bit. As I said, everybody looks at the downtown as kind of the number one thing. So that's kind of across the board. But young people tend to be a little bit more worried about some of those, what I would almost call some of the softer community outreach focuses of the new police chief. So that is, building relationships with community groups and improving those relationships with underserved or marginalized communities. Older folks, as we would expect, care a little bit more about their property and that sort of sense of safety and those kind of petty crime issues. That was really the only really big difference among some of the demographics in the poll.
Were there any surprises to you or things that are just worth mentioning out of this?
Yes. As soon as I said that was the only big difference in this poll, I actually just thought of one more that was a little bit of a surprise, which is BIPOC folks, people of color, actually care a little bit more about some of those day-to-day safety, street-level safety, property crime issues than they do about some of those big issues of, Black Lives Matter and a focus on building those relationships with those communities. That's not to say that people of color don't care about that they care about that about as much as white folks do, about as much as average.
Yeah. What do you think that overall this poll tells us, or if whoever's going to be the next chief picks this up and says, what might they take from this, do you think?
Yeah, I would, if I was the new chief, I would look at that graph that we made, the bar graph, and I would say, oh man, it's all the things. Yes, downtown safety is kind of rises to the top, but not by a ton. We also want this chief to do all of the other things, that relationship building, that community outreach, that building that level of trust and transparency with Winnipeggers. And so it's kind of the hard stuff, the crime fighting, making us feel safer in our city, but also building that sense of outreach and trust. It's kind of all the things. If I was that chief, I'd think, oh God, they need a bit of a unicorn.
I think we're in a moment though that came up throughout our series all summer as well. Everyone that talked about what their hopes were, what their criticisms were, what everybody acknowledged we're somehow in a very important moment for whoever this person's going to be. Now I understand 5% of Winnipeggers polled that say they want to see a budget decrease and they want to limit wage increases. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So in the survey, we also said, hey, was there anything else we missed that you might want the new police chief to look at? And about 5% of folks, and it was kind of funny, it's 5% said, I want the new police chief to be tough on crime, crack down, have more police on the streets. But then another 5%, a different group, said, no, we want to maybe defund in some way, in some measure, the police, lower those wages, lower that spending in the budget on police. So that is that natural tension between Winnipeggers who want more cops and those who have a bit of reticence about increasing the police level.
Were most of the questions framed around sort of personal individuals' desires for what they want to see in the next chief versus systemic change? I'm just curious how wide, the questions were spread.
Yeah, a bit of both. People always answer surveys with themselves in mind. It's just, and we always frame them that way. What do you want to see based on what you know in your life? And I think in part that's why some of those really visceral things in the headlines, property, petty crime, retail theft issues kind of come to the top, and the downtown. We all see that every day. But we did ask about some of those systemic issues, some of those, the way police treat Indigenous folks, for example. And those also were part of the discussion.
Where can people read all of the research, Mary Agnes, that's posted online?
Yeah, it's all on your website.
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty much the main graph is there, and then we'll post it on our website as well.
Yeah. And your website is?
probe-research.com. I should know that. I think it's
probe. Put you on the spot.
Yes. It's your poll.
Find the
it's
link
on your
in
website.
Ours. You can do that. Yeah. cbc.ca/Manitoba. Just last before you go, obviously you were, you've been doing this work for a long time, polling on all kinds of different issues. Do you get a sense at all, and I'm not sure if this is the case or not, of how high interest something might be? Because sometimes I'll ask questions on the show and people won't want to talk about something. Everyone was anxious to weigh in on this and talk about it. I wondered through your polling if you found this was a topic of high importance and discussion right now.
Yeah, I think on this poll, but also on all of the other work we do, when we ask Winnipeggers, what's the number one thing on your mind in your community? Often, pretty much in the last year, it's been issues of homelessness, drug addiction, mental health, crime, all of those things that are in this kind of knot together that we're all talking about in some way or another. And so that also, I think, then speaks to this looking towards the new chief to maybe take some some new measures on these issues.
Appreciate having you in to walk us through everything.
Yeah, my pleasure.
That is Mary Agnes Welch, partner of Probe Research Inc., and she's quite correct, probe-research.com. But of course, that's embedded as well because, yes, it was commissioned by us here at CBC, this poll. So cbc.ca/Manitoba. Check out the results. And if you've yet to weigh in, as I mentioned, we've been asking these questions through a series for the last 6 weeks. But what are the qualities that you want to see in the next Winnipeg Police Chief? And what are your top priorities? 788-3205. And to be clear here, I'm trying to hear from a whole bunch of different people because at some point we're hoping we're going to have the chief on the air with us, whoever that's going to be, and we can put some of your thoughts and calls to them. 788-3205. It is 3 minutes to 8 o'clock. And by the way, Danny Smythe will officially retire on September 7th, and they expect to name the new police chief mid-October is what Marcus Chambers told us on the show last week. Heather Wells is in with other headlines this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, Winnipeggers are waiting as long as 2 years for cataract surgery. That is according to new documents obtained by CBC News. But the province's wait times dashboard shows a 9-week wait. We're going to hear from one man in East St. Paul calling for more transparency on those wait times. And it's back to class week across Manitoba. Students start going back starting tomorrow, but teachers are in class already. Autumn Yee, a grade 8 teacher at La Vérendrye School in Portage la Prairie, says aside from a few nerves, she plans to talk with her students about the new province-wide cell phone ban. Those stories and more coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Yeah, big topic of conversation this year for sure. Partly cloudy in Winnipeg, although mostly clear downtown. And on our live shot, it's 15 degrees in the city. And our high today, 30, with Humidex going to feel like 34. So maybe a good thing those splash pads at least are open a little bit longer. Some of the spray pads, although the wading pools are closed. It is in traffic, a pretty slow morning. Lots of volumes of traffic, but slow in terms of problems, which is good. Call us if you need, though, and remember to slow down in school zones. 788-3093 is where you can reach us. National and international news is up next on CBC. Stay with us. It's 1 minute to 8.
On Q with Tom Power.
The first father and daughter collaboration on Q. Ethan and Maya Hawke will be here to tell you why they wanted to make a movie about the great Southern writer Flannery O'Connor and their warts and all approach to tackling her genius and her contradictions.
Why you don't want to write something that people would like to read.
That's coming up on Q, followed by Commotion with Elamine Abdel Mahmoud on CBC Radio 1, the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
We're hitting the road this week to launch a new season, first to the East Coast with stops in Charlottetown, Fredericton, and then Montreal, and then all the way west to Haida Gwaii. We'll bring you stories from right across Canada coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. China says it is launching an anti-dumping investigation into canola exports from Canada. The move is seen as retaliation over Ottawa's decision to slap tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, steel, and aluminum. The CBC's Kate McKenna is following this announcement from our parliamentary bureau. And Kate, what are we hearing from China?
The spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce was asked by reporters about Canada's move to slap tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, steel, and aluminum. They said that China is strongly dissatisfied by Canada's decision, and in response, they're going to launch an anti-dumping probe into Canadian canola exports. China imports more oilseed than any other country, and most of its exports of canola come from Canada. Last year, Canada exported $5 billion worth of canola products to China. The Chinese official also said that the country will launch an anti-dumping investigation on relevant chemical products from Canada based on domestic industry applications. The Chinese spokesperson drew a direct link between these new probes and Canada's decision to match U.S. tariffs, putting a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles and a 25% tariff on imported steel and aluminum. Last week, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland said it was an important move to protect Canadian jobs, and we heard from officials that it was something that was in the works for months. Last week, Freeland was asked about potential retaliatory action, but told reporters that they had to act in the best interest of Canadian workers and not in fear of how China could react.
This isn't the first time China has targeted Canadian canola in a trade dispute. It also happened in 2019.
Yes, back then, China suspended 2 Canadian canola exporters before removing the restrictions in 2022. That ban happened just months after Beijing detained Canadians Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig following the arrest of a Huawei executive in Vancouver. At the time, an industry group estimated that the dispute cost Canadian farmers billions of dollars. Today, China is not announcing a ban, but warns that it will take all measures necessary to defend the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese companies.
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Kate McKenna in Ottawa. In Jerusalem, Israelis have been protesting in the streets. The demonstrators want Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do whatever it takes to bring hostages home. Over the weekend, 6 Israeli hostages were found dead in a tunnel in Rafah. The Israeli army says it was on its way to rescue them. In a speech yesterday, Netanyahu remained defiant. Sasha Petrusek has the latest.
If Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's speech was meant to calm protests, it did the opposite. Crowds grew in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, demanding a ceasefire so that hostages be released. Families of hostages accuse him of criminal negligence.
I think everybody feel like they have to do something.
They reject Netanyahu's insistence on keeping Israeli troops inside Gaza, along the border with Egypt, a key barrier to an agreement with Hamas. Itai Sela has 2 sons serving in Gaza.
The government of Israel is a threat to the world peace. It's a dictatorship run by one-man show.
Even Israel's biggest ally, the U.S., says Netanyahu is not doing enough to secure a deal. President Joe Biden made the comments as Washington considers a take-it-or-leave-it offer to Hamas and to Netanyahu.
I don't believe that either President Biden or anyone serious about achieving peace and achieving the release would seriously ask Israel to make these concessions.
Last night, Netanyahu also told reporters the war will continue until Hamas is destroyed, something even members of his cabinet say may not be possible. Sasha Petrusek, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The United Kingdom has suspended some of its arms sales to Israel. Britain's government says there's a clear risk the equipment could be used to violate international law. It is another sign of the pressure on the Israeli government to reach a ceasefire agreement. But some organizations, including Amnesty International, say the suspension does not go far enough. John Healey is the UK's Secretary of State for Defence.
Well, this is not about making a political gesture. We saw too much of that under the last government. This is about following the rule of law, and this is a government that will respect the law. But in the end, the only way to end Israeli actions, the only way to end the attacks from Hamas, from Hezbollah, and from others that mean Israel harm is for an immediate ceasefire. And we've been now arguing that in opposition and in government.
Healey says this decision is in no way changing the UK's stance on Israel's right to defend itself. Netanyahu has called the decision shameful. Russia's president is receiving a warm welcome in a country where he is subject to arrest. Vladimir Putin smiles for the cameras while shaking hands with Mongolia's president in that country's capital. Mongolia is a member state of the International Criminal Court. The ICC issued a warrant for Putin's arrest for alleged war crimes in Ukraine 18 months ago. Ahead of the visit, Ukraine called on Mongolia to honor its commitments to the ICC and arrest Putin. The United States government is now in possession of an airplane used by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The U.S. is one of many countries saying Venezuela's election results were fraudulent. As Victoria Stunt reports, some experts say this is a move to heap pressure on Maduro.
The executive jet sits on the ground in Fort Lauderdale, attracting a lot of attention. It was used by Venezuela's President Nicolás Maduro until yesterday, when it was seized by the U.S. Justice Department. The U.S. alleges the plane was bought in Florida in violation of laws meant to sanction Venezuela. A shell company paid $13 million for it, then illegally exported the aircraft to Venezuela in 2023.
Well, it's not as if the president can't get another plane.
Anthony Pereira is the director of Florida International University's Latin American and Caribbean Center.
We'll get another Air Force plane or some other vehicle to travel in. But, it's symbolically, it's a punch in the nose. I think this is just maybe a way to show to the Venezuelan regime that the U.S. wants to maintain pressure. They want something to change on the ground.
What they want to change are the results of the recent election. The country's electoral council and court proclaimed Maduro the winner. However, the U.S. and some other countries insist opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez actually won. They say election fraud was widespread. The government, so far, is refusing to release the voting tallies. As for Maduro's plane, the Venezuelan government says the seizure was illegal and nothing but piracy. Victoria Stunt, CBC News, Toronto.
A Nova Scotia mother wants an apology from the province's health authority. She says doctors failed to diagnose her son's condition, and as a result, he ended up needing emergency brain surgery. As Angela McIver reports, the woman feels the system let her family down.
He's like, he has to go in for surgery. It's surgery or death.
Jennifer Weatherby recalls the moment 3 weeks ago doctors at the IWK Health Centre, the regional children's hospital in Halifax, confirmed her worst fear. Her 13-year-old son Paxton had a bacterial infection that spread to his brain. On 3 occasions earlier that week, she sought medical care for her son an hour away in Truro. The final time he was seen by an emergency room doctor and diagnosed with cluster migraines. Weatherby says Paxton's symptoms had been brushed off.
But is it normal for one person to have, headache, vomiting, swelling coming out of their face and a seizure all at the same time? Is that normal? I don't think that's normal.
Nova Scotia Health declined comment, but a spokesperson says anytime there is a serious patient safety incident, a quality review is conducted.
I would say that's not enough.
Wendy Nicklin is with Patients for Patient Safety Canada. She says Paxton's case deserves a closer look at a higher level.
This incident involves several different locations and sites, interactions with professionals in different areas, and because of the health system implications, I think there's issues for government here too.
Nicklin says it could even be a case study on the impact of understaffed, crowded emergency departments across Canada. As for Weatherby, she's now focused on filing a complaint with the College of Physicians and Surgeons and possibly a lawsuit. Angela McIver, CBC News, Halifax.
And this is the second most read story at cbcnews.ca. Angela even has pictures of the MRI scans with some explanations of what you're looking at. Worth taking a look on our main page. That is World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, good morning, everyone. Let's get started. Labor Day weekend behind us. School's going to begin this week across the province. And thanks for joining us to start your Tuesday morning on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube. Well, this half hour on the program, what's special about back to school in your house? Maybe you've got someone switching grades. Maybe it's an empty nest situation. Maybe it's adult learning. Or, of course, the all-important first day of kindergarten. You can write to us or call us about that, 788-3205. We'll get into some of your comments this half hour. Also this half hour, what's it like for a new teacher preparing to start their career in a new school? We're going to hear from Autumn Yee, who's a first-time teacher in Portage La Prairie this morning, about why she says she's excited to start the journey. Stay with us for headlines. And with headlines, Heather Wells is in. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a new CBC Manitoba probe poll has found improving downtown safety is what Winnipeggers want their new police chief to tackle when they start their new job. Current chief Danny Smythe officially retires this week. This probe poll shows more than 1 in 4 Winnipeggers feel downtown safety should be top of mind for the person who steps into those chief shoes. An East St. Paul man wants more transparency when it comes to wait times for cataract surgeries. Hedley Duffield waited almost a year and a half for surgery. That's a big difference from the 9-week wait listed on the province's wait times dashboard. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Abby Adeyemi has a forecast.
The mercury hasn't moved much. We're still at 15 in the downtown. Clear skies we're seeing. Prepare to get hot today. It's going to be sunny. It's going to be warm. It's going to be kind of steamy with that humidex factored in. We're expecting sunny day with light breeze picking up from the south this morning. The high will reach around 30, though it's going to feel warmer than that. And then for tonight, we'll see some clear skies with clouds moving in late in the evening. A breezy northwest winds will pick up this morning, and that would be the situation. Other parts of the province, Churchill is actually seeing some thunderstorms and light rain showers at this time at 12 degrees, and Thompson is at 14. For the rest of the south, we're seeing temperatures hover between 15 and 16 all the way from Brandon down to Morris. So in a nutshell, I'll tell you, sunny and warm day ahead, clear skies tonight, and tomorrow will start clear. We're looking at highs of
for sure.
I'll take it.
Let's get into what's going on the commute, Chloe.
Not much. Not much is going on the commute.
People
It's
will take
quiet.
that too, I guess.
Yeah, no, but there is definitely more traffic on the roads today, as I've been watching out the window here at Porterton Spence. But yeah, no calls to the commuter line about any issues. That is great news. A reminder that school zones back in effect. So September is here, 30 kilometers in those areas. The signs are posted Monday to Friday, 7 o'clock to 7 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. School zones are in effect, so drive very safely and carefully out there.
What was your favorite grade to go back to?
Oh, that is such a good question. I had a great grade 3.
Okay.
I don't know what it was, but I have very fond memories of the 3rd grade.
I do too. Mr. Gurwinski, I feel like he
Miss Rock for me.
You remember, right?
Yeah.
Unlocked my love of reading that year, my love of writing specifically that year
Yes,
too.
I think I learned cursive in the 3rd grade. And I still use cursive to this day.
Love it.
And so that's a very fun memory I have.
So what's special about back to school in your house this year? You've been writing to us on Facebook. Let's get some comments on here to touch the mood. Becky Lett says, new job, actually, for my grumpy bear, she calls him. After 17 years at his previous one, it feels like a graduation of sorts for him. Magpie McGee saying grade 12 for one and kindergarten for another. Wow, opposite ends of the spectrum, right? I know. New school and new grades as well for the teachers, so that's an exciting household. Robin Blecker writing in, I have 2 granddaughters starting kindergarten and then one starting high school, so same thing, these critical years. I made them all first day of school shirts, Robin said. Isn't that cute?
I hope the kindergartner wears it and the 12th graders wear it.
Those
Iconic.
are the best pictures. A couple more here. Eric Reedman Parker saying 2 different kids at 2 different schools. So one in elementary, one in middle school. And I'm in year 2 of a doctoral program, which is in my 40s now. And it's bringing back all the dreams about missed assignments and tests I didn't study for. Oh, the school assignment stress. We feel you. John Harvey saying my partner's taking courses in retirement at U of M because I retired from teaching at International College. And a couple last ones here. Lisa Teal saying, here's what's special. No more driving. No more lunches. I have young men in the house now. So there's a little more finishing work to help them into adulthood. For this old mama, though, she writes, grateful to be finally done. But to the young parents, time flies. So enjoy the journey in these hugely impressionable years. Finally, Kev Roberts, I love this, says one more sleep and we can officially get this school year underway. As a teacher, Kev says, I'm just as excited as all the students. I can't wait to witness all of the awesome. Well, on that note, with that teacher excitement in mind, we'll return to class. Tomorrow's the biggest day of the week. Tomorrow's the first day for many students, but yes, some teachers are also going to have their first day. What's it like for them? CBC's Jim Agapito was in Portage La Prairie where he caught up with a new teacher. She was setting up her homeroom for the very first time.
Hi, I'm Autumn Yee, and I am a grade 8 teacher at La Vérandre School in Portage La Prairie. This is my first time having my own classroom, but I have a little bit of experience with teaching a class already. Because of that, I feel somewhat prepared, but there are a lot of new challenges that I know are going to come, and that's where I'm feeling a little excited, nervous. Either way, it's my first classroom, so I'm very excited for that. I am a little bit nervous about getting involved in a new community just because I'm from Winnipeg. I have not really been in Portage much before now. I have a security deposit on an apartment that I'm going to be moving into in November. Having an apartment is going to be the first time I'm living away from my parents. Of course, I'm going to go back and visit them, and I'm going to be in Winnipeg on weekends, but just so that I can just be a little bit closer to the community that I'm going to be working in and get to know it a little bit more so that it's not just a job for me, and then I know I'm not just here for the money. I want the welcome sign over there. I think that one might also go over there. I decided to become a teacher when I was in high school. I really, really loved learning as a kid, and academics has always been something that's been really enjoyable for me. What I wasn't the biggest fan of was some of the social things that were happening in school, wanting to kind of make a change to instill a love of learning that I have in some future students one day, or make it a little bit more fun. Because I found that's where I had challenges. If I wasn't really enjoying the content as much, I wouldn't really be as interested in learning it. Teaching also gives me the opportunity to be somewhat of a lifelong learner. There's always something there that I can learn about myself or about the world, and that's just something that's very important to me.
What time does class start at for you?
I'm going to be here around 8:15 in the mornings, and even though our school would be ending at like 3:30, I usually stay later to do whatever I need to do, if it's prep work, if it's marking. For a while I was working 3 different jobs on top of being a full-time student. I just did what I really had to do at that time. I can really spend my time trying to do my best for the one place that I'm dedicated to.
What is the first thing that you tell the students?
That I'm excited to get to know them. That's what I think will make it a better year for myself and for them, is if I get to know them and that I spend that time knowing who they are as people before I know who they are as students. This one is going to be going right over here under the Welcome to Grade 8 sign. How punctuation can convey emotions.
What's your favorite one?
My favorite one is question marks. I know some Mandarin as well. You don't use question marks for Mandarin. You have a character that you would say to indicate a question. So question marks being a very English thing to me. That's a lot of fun for me. Both my parents are Chinese, but my dad speaks Toisan and not Mandarin, so he didn't really understand what I would be saying. So I just reconnected with some of my own history and ancestry in the last few years, and I've been learning Mandarin for about 3 or 4 years now. So it's something that has been a very recent interest of mine. Since I'm teaching all of the homeroom subjects, I'm teaching math, science, social studies, and English, I wanted to combine them in a way that I haven't done before. I have used characters and given students characters before, so it's kind of similar to that, where they had to find a new perspective in their activities. Either way, I want to add some creativity into it. I need to think of where I'm going to move all the desks. I need to move that whole section over this way a little bit, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's going to be angled a little bit so not everything is too like right beside each other.
Autumn, they still use these?
We still use notebooks, yep, because being able to write and having that printing skill is important, and since we're not going to be able to type every single thing up because we don't have Chromebooks in our classroom all the time.
There's going to be a cell phone ban.
That is going to be a new challenge for me. I do know that the school that I'm in has certain policies, and so does the division. So whatever that may be, I know that it's again going to be approached with kindness. I'm not just going to go walk up to a student and grab their phone away, but it would be a conversation and some mutual understanding, and of course respect in everything that I'm doing.
Now you mentioned journaling.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
It's just a way to have some sort of regular writing activity where there's no real pressure on it. I would not be reading these unless if they wanted me to, just because that's a personal thing.
So you did this on your own, Onus?
Yes, I do this on my own time as well. I do use journaling as something to express my emotions and understand how I'm feeling a little bit better. So it helps me to regulate my emotions. I figured it would be good for students as well. Even if some of them don't hang on to it, it might be helpful for one or two, and that's really all that matters.
If you were to give a message to yourself that maybe years you can look back, what would you say?
Oh, that's a hard one. It's good that I trusted in myself to make the decisions that I wanted to, and whatever I'm doing a good job.
What a great question. I'm just going to steal. What advice would you give to yourself on the first day of school if you could go back? I love that question. 788-3205. CBC's Jim Agapito speaking with Autumn Yee. She is starting her teaching career at La Vérendrye School in Portage La Prairie. The official day one is tomorrow.
Look out, kid, just your heart. You don't have to play the part they wrote for you. Just be true. There are things that you could do that no one else on earth could ever do. But I can't teach you, I can't teach it to you. Look out, kid, trust your mind, but you can't trust it every time. You know it plays tricks on you, and it don't give a damn if you are happy or you're sad. But if you've lost it, don't feel bad, 'cause it's alright to be sad. Trust your body, you can dance, you can shake, things will break, you make
Arcade Fire with Unconditional One. Look Out Kid. Good song for all the kids out there, students out there getting ready to head back for school this week and preparing to face a brand new year. Weather-wise, really briefly here, we've got a mixed condition across the province. Here in the south, it's going to be smoking hot. 15 degrees already, a high of 30. It's going to feel like 34 with Humidex in Winnipeg. And Brandon is also going to be really hot like that as well. Their Humidex in Brandon today is going to be, feels like 36. So that's what we're having here in the south. However, it is hazy into Dooley, so still smoke related. Lynn Lake hazy as well. There's some shallow fog up in Flin Flon. And as Abby reported, Churchill now with a thunderstorm with light rain. So different conditions in the province. Well, down south, staying here in Winnipeg, we're going to start to see the streets get busy with little feet and backpacks and all kinds of things. So let's find out related to that what they're asking on Radio Noon's call-in conversation today between 12:30 and 1. Laurie Hoogstraten is hosting and in studio now. Hi there.
Hi, Marcy. Interesting, the Arcade Fire song, Look Out Kid. It's on the show today. It's Look Out for Kids, because we're going to talk about the traffic zones. And CAA put out media release today reminding people of how we should be driving and so on. So we are going to be talking to a representative from CAA about driver behavior and inviting listeners to call in with their questions about, what the exact rules are, or what the fine is. Huge, I'll just tell you that right now. And how things can be improved, maybe where people would like to see lower speed zones in other parts of the city, and just find out how important it is. And also, their latest research does reveal some pretty poor driving practices, everything from double parking to just like not slowing down.
So between 12:30 and 1, you can call live, or we always have Laurie in to check, to ask you to call the listener line in case you can't make it over lunch, right?
Yeah, so 204-788-3797 if you want to give us a call ahead of time. And, of course, during the show, give us a call at 204-780-0893. I should know that number by now.
Tuesday after the long weekend. Some brain's not up yet. I know mine took a while. Thank you, Laurie.
Thanks, Marcy.
All right, between 12:30 and 1, that's the call-in. I also want to mention that we're going to be on location coming up pretty shortly. So a week from Thursday, we are planning to be on location. I call these our community studios. And we're going to be live covering the Elmwood-Transcona by-election. So that is our reason for being on location. And our location next Thursday morning is going to be the Elm Pizzeria and Cafe. And it's a unique spot. It's on Henderson Highway, 163 Henderson Highway. You might have been down there for JC Tacos. The same owners actually spread out and they opened their cafe now. Had it open since about 2020. So some fresh tamales, lots of history, some really, really good food. So that might entice you, but we're hoping the conversation will as well. So we're extending invitations to the candidates who are running for that seat, that federal seat in the Elmwood-Transcona by-election. And then we, of course, want to hear from you first and foremost. If you're a resident or a citizen of that part of Winnipeg, please join us next Thursday, September 12th at the Elm for our live broadcast. So we'll have more details as the days in the days ahead here. We're coming up to news time at 8:30, but Chloe's popped in, so there must be something going on in traffic.
Yeah, there's a few things actually. King Edward at Notre Dame. Currently, there's a stall blocking the southbound right yield lane. So use caution when you're going around. There is space, but not much. So there's minor delays now on King Edward at Notre Dame. As well, southbound Dunkirk, it's bumper-to-bumper traffic due to construction in that area. And Nellie called and said that zipper merging is possible. So let's do that. And then also got a call from Derek. Broadway, there's a lot of construction backed up in both directions, especially as you're heading into the downtown. Anything to add? 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Chloe. Your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. Still 15 degrees, but just wait for it. That temperature is going to skyrocket all the way to 30 this afternoon with a humidex of 34. A new CBC Manitoba probe poll reveals improving downtown safety is what Winnipeggers want their new police chief to tackle when they start their new job. Chief Danny Smythe officially retires this week. Now, this probe poll shows more than 1 in 4 people in Winnipeg feel downtown safety should be top of mind for his successor. 60% say the new chief needs to combat petty crime and property crime, both issues a concern for Kishan Zalawadjia, owner of Family Foods downtown. He says safety is a growing concern in his store and shoplifting is a daily occurrence.
I don't want to call the cops for $5-10, but those $5-10 are being stolen every hour. So I don't know what I shall call them for. Like, shall I call them for $50 or shall I call them for $10 every hour?
In addition to safety and crime, the probe poll reveals roughly 1 in 5 Winnipeggers want the new chief to improve relationships with BIPOC Winnipeggers and strengthen relationships with community and social service groups. You can see more on this poll on our website this morning, cbc.ca/Manitoba. And East St. Paul man wants more transparency when it comes to wait times for cataract surgeries. Hedley Duffield waited almost a year and a half for surgery, a big difference from the 9-week wait listed on the province's wait times dashboard. That's because the province doesn't include the wait time to get a consultation from an ophthalmologist. New documents obtained by CBC show that can take more than 20 months. Duffield says the province needs to improve the way it explains wait times.
I also Googled the wait times for surgery in Manitoba, and looking at the numbers that they had there, and they just didn't add up, in my estimation.
The documents show Winnipeggers are waiting an average of 11 months for cataract surgery once the time it takes to get a consult is included in the total. We'll have more on this story as well at cbc.ca/Manitoba. It is back to school week across Manitoba. Students heading back starting tomorrow, but teachers are already in class. Autumn Yee is a grade 8 teacher at La Vérendrye School in Portage La Prairie. This is her first year with her own classroom. It's also the first year with a province-wide cell phone ban for elementary school students.
I know that it's, again, going to be approached with kindness. I'm not just going to go walk up to a student and grab their phone away, but it would be a conversation and some mutual understanding and, of course, respect in everything that I'm doing.
Yee admits she has some first-day jitters, but is excited to have her own classroom and looks forward to getting to know her students. In what could be a sign of things to come, a Chinese trade official says Beijing is launching an anti-dumping investigation into canola exports from Canada. The move follows Ottawa's decision last month to put steep tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles, steel and aluminum. We'll hear more on that story coming up in our next news at 9 o'clock. It is one of the deadliest Russian missile attacks in recent months. The president of Ukraine says more than 40 people have been killed in 2 overnight missile strikes.
Отримав попередні доповіді щодо російського удару по Полтаві.
Volodymyr Zelensky saying a military facility and an education office were targeted in the city of Poltava. He says along with more than 40 fatalities, at least 180 people have been injured. In Jerusalem, Israelis have been protesting in the streets. The demonstrators want Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do whatever it takes to bring hostages home. Over the weekend, 6 Israeli hostages were found dead in a tunnel in Rafah. The Israeli army says it was on its way to rescue them. In a speech yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu remained defiant, saying the war will continue until Hamas is destroyed. Winnipeg's fire paramedic service is urging you to be careful in the kitchen. Yesterday afternoon, crews responded to a house fire on McDermott. The one person in that house got out before crews arrived safely. The fire was put out within half an hour, but the preliminary investigation found the fire was accidental, caused by unattended cooking. The fire paramedic service advises you always stay in the kitchen when you're cooking. Keep oven mitts, wooden utensils, food packaging, and containers away from the stovetop, and never use water to put out a fire. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather Wells.
You're welcome.
Let's have a last look at what's going on in the commute. I know Chloe just mentioned these few problem areas before the news, but in case you missed that, I guess a brief mention won't hurt. Again, Chloe?
Yeah, King Edward and Notre Dame. There's a stall blocking the southbound right yield lane. Use caution going around. There is room to sneak around, but also some minor delays getting started in that area. As well, we heard from Derek that Broadway is really backed up in both directions actually due to construction, but especially slow if you're heading into the downtown via Broadway, so prepare yourself for that. And then lastly, southbound Dunkirk, bumper-to-bumper traffic, says Nellie, who called the commuter line, due to construction. It's your chance to show off your perfect zipper merge.
Sweet. Let's see it. All right, thanks, Chloe. Abby, take it away.
The province will be seeing a sunny and warm day ahead with temperatures ranging from 22 in Churchill with light rain showers and thunderstorms at this time to 31 in the southern regions from Brandon all the way down to Gimli. Right now we're seeing temperatures around 16 in most of the regions, mainly sunny. Tonight will be clear and the clouds will move in later in the evening.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
So to Chloe and Abby, as well as to Kevin Nipatebo, who's on our team as well through YouTube. Thank you, guys. Thank you to Heather Wells and Megan Ketcherson, Joni Nicolo, also in our live team this morning in our news center. Thanks to all of our hardworking associate producers in our unit here at CBC Manitoba in Current Affairs. And our acting producer in unit has been Wendy Parker this week, as well as Nellie Gonzalez, who's acting as senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba in Leif Larson's absence. Thanks, everyone, for your hard work. Well, take care and be well and get back at it. And thanks so much for joining us this morning on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. The Current is coming up next.